Chapter 1443. Some golden celestials of the great overarching golden celestials, and even some primordial supremes of the primordial chaos, supremes showed signs of losing control of their swords. Once again, they formed the myriad swords of reverence. However, they couldn't compare to Chen Taishu's. But even so, it shocked all the cultivators present. Gu Xian's face darkened to a terrifying degree, because the sword intent that soared into the sky was Qin Yang's. He's resurrected. He's resurrected. He was killed by the Nirvana Samsara finger. Unbelievable. The spirits of all living things were shocked. Ha ha ha, Brother Fatty is mighty. I told you Brother Fatty won't lose. Fuck off. Can you not speak in hindsight? Who was the one who looked like the sky was falling? The disciples of the University of Dahua were very excited. Chen Nan, Pan Long, Du Jing, Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, and the other girls heaved a sigh of relief and smiled at each other. They had to admit that this was the first time they were most worried. The spirits of all living things were most likely the reincarnation of a celestial master. Even if they trusted Chen Hao, they couldn't be sure. Amidst the endless divine light, the rolling Taoist principles, and the crisscrossing sword qi, two figures appeared. One of them was full of energy, and a shadow of a sword seemed to be hanging above his head. Who else could it be but Qin Yang? His aura seemed to be more powerful than before he died. Especially at this moment, his body contained a real divine qi, which made him, who was already extraordinary, look even more ethereal. The other figure was sitting cross-legged and looked quite weak. It was obvious that he had consumed too much energy and hadn't recovered yet. Naturally, it was Chen Hao. We're family, so I won't thank you. Qin Yang smiled as he looked at Chen Hao and spoke softly. His gaze contained an imperceptible feeling of gratitude. He had never thought of coming back from the dead, but it really happened to him. And all of this was given to him by Chen Hao. How could he not be grateful to be given a second life? But he wasn't the kind of person who would show his gratitude on the surface. Chen Hao glared at Qin Yang and said, "What's the point of thanking me? Just remember that your life is mine." Qin Yang was slightly taken aback, and then he smiled. Junior Marshall sister already has you in her heart. Why do you have to deliberately make things difficult for her? It was only right and proper for a man to give in to a woman. However, my life is indeed yours, but if you want to bully Junior sister, I will still fight you to the death, Qin Yang said with a smile, but his words were as sharp as a sword, directly pointing to the essence. You can do it? Ahem, it doesn't matter if I can or not. Attitude is the most important thing. Qin Yang, senior brother. The Sword King Chen Taishu opened the seal, and directly stepped onto the arena. He had an excited and joyful expression as he grabbed Qin Yang's hand, and carefully sized him up. After that, Miao Xian, whose tears were still wet, also flew into the arena. Thank you, Miao Xian said softly when Chen Hao turned around and walked towards the top 10. Chen Hao's figure paused imperceptibly for a moment before he quickly returned to the top 10, and looked at Gu Xian. At this moment, be it the cultivators present or the live broadcast in the celestial realm, all of them were focused on Chen Hao and Gu Xian. What, do you need me to remind you? Chen Hao stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Although he had consumed a lot of energy to revive Qin Yang, and his face was still a little pale, his handsome face and his eyes, which were as deep as the stars in the night sky, revealed a disdainful spirit. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised as if he was smiling, but at this moment, it gave people a bone-chilling feeling. All the discussions disappeared and the scene became silent. Everyone's eyes fell on Gu Xian's face. Gu Xian's face became more and more unsightly, and his eyes looking at Chen Hao became more and more ruthless. The aura on his body became more and more violent, and the terrifying pressure made everyone in the top 10 activate their protective aura. At the same time, Gu Xian's eyebrows twitched violently, and a faint golden light emerged. There was no doubt that it was the fluctuation from the Godhead. It was just that he suppressed it and did not really release it, but the pressure was getting more and more terrifying. Phew! In an instant, the terrifying pressure pressed down on the entire space, causing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to surge and scatter in all directions. It swept out, shocking countless cultivators. What they had to endure was merely the aftermath. How strong was the pressure that Chen Hao, who bore the brunt of it, had to endure. Everyone knew that Gu Xian wanted to intimidate Li Yuan with his pressure. But Chen Hao, who had a calm expression and a piercingly cold gaze, didn't seem to be affected in the slightest, and he allowed the pressure to descend upon him. The only change was that the gaze he looked at Gu Xian with had become as if he was looking at a clown, and it was filled with ridicule. You are indeed not bad to be able to withstand 10% of my pressure. However, are you sure you dare to make me kneel? Gu Xian was also surprised, but he did not show it on his face. Instead, he said threateningly, "Are you willing to bet or not?" Chen Hao said disdainfully, "Haha, I'm just afraid that you can't bear it and die. I, Gu Xian, am the reincarnation of the Celestial Lord. I am a supreme existence even in the celestial realm. Are you sure you want me to kneel?" Gu Xian was insufferably arrogant, and his eyebrows twitched even more violently. Asking him, a celestial lord, to kneel in front of Chen Hao, no matter what, he could not put down his face. However, the bet was first, and it was a fact that he had lost. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he could only ask Chen Hao to give up. "Li Yuan, don't be ungrateful and bring trouble to yourself. Who do you think you are to ask Celestial Lord Gu Xian to kneel? If you really do that, I'm sure that once Celestial Lord Gu Xian's strength recovers, you will definitely die without a burial place. No one in this world can save you. The most important thing is that if Celestial Lord Gu Xian releases his Godhead's aura, how can you withstand a bow from Celestial Lord Gu Xian? Death is unavoidable." When Wei Wufa and Zhang Yuanzhao heard Gu Xian's words, their eyes lit up. Previously, they had only guessed that Gu Xian might be the reincarnation of a Celestial Lord, or someone close to a Celestial Lord. However, at this moment, Gu Xian had personally confirmed his identity as a Celestial Lord. The significance of this was very different. The two of them instantly became Gu Xian's dogs and roared without hesitation. Unfortunately, Chen Hao did not care about Gu Xian's words at all. His eyelids did not even twitch. "You have 2 dogs already? What a great Celestial Lord. Unfortunately, in front of me you're nothing. I'll say it again. If you agree to the bet, you must accept your loss. Kneel down and call me grandfather 3 times. Impudent. How dare you? You're courting death." Wei Wufa, Zhang Yuanzhao, and Gu Xian were instantly enraged. "Umph." At this moment, Sword King Chen Taishu suddenly snorted coldly and said, "You dare to not admit to a bet made in front of the world? The old man doesn't care if you're a Celestial Lord or not. Now, in the eyes of the old man, you're just an ant. Carry out the bet, or die." "Ha ha ha. Good good. It seems like the Celestial Realm Gate has been closed for too long. I, Gu Xian, a Celestial Lord, am actually threatened by a mere true Celestial King. Even if I'm just Dao Yuo Jingxian, do you think you have the ability to kill me? What a joke." Buzz. Buzz buzz buzz. Knowing that it was unavoidable, Gu Xian no longer hesitated and released his Godhead's aura without restraint. Chapter 1444. Holy, bright golden light gushed out and swept across the land. Plop. Plop plop plop. In an instant, the cultivators of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, and the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, who sensed the pressure of the ancient mystic Godhead, fell to their knees. Those that didn't kneel were all shocked as well. All of them utilized their strongest energy to resist this terrifying pressure that made others submit. And their gazes stared with astonishment at the insufferably arrogant Gu Xian, who possessed might that ruled the world. The pressure of the Godhead. It was many times stronger than Shi Chao's Godhead. It could be said that Shi Chao's Godhead could not be compared to Gu Xian's. Even the powerful Dao-severing perfected immortals, perfected immortal kings, and galaxy kings were shocked. They were sure that if Gu Xian was not restricted by his realm, and could not use the full power of the Godhead, they would not be able to resist the pressure that was completely beyond their realm. At this moment, Gu Xian was like a child holding a peerless sword. He could not even use 1/10,000th of its power. This is the Godhead of a heavenly venerable? Chen Hao was also shocked. Although he was shocked, he was not intimidated by the pressure of the ancient mystic Godhead. "You forced me to do this. I did not want to use the Godhead because I was still hoping for a new breakthrough. But since you are so reckless, I have to sacrifice a little. How dare you ask me to kneel?" Gu Xian rose into the air and looked down at Chen Hao. He said arrogantly, "To tell you the truth, no one can stop me if I want to leave, not even a king. I have fully awakened. No one can stop my growth." "You are just a heavenly venerable. So what if you are a heavenly venerable? Since you have lost to me, you have to honor it even if you are a king. Don't dare? Why not? There is no such word in my dictionary. Also, I hate threats the most." Ha ha. Gu Xian was so angry that he laughed. Good. I can afford to lose. But I hope you don't regret it. I want to see how you can bear the worship of a heavenly venerable. Don't forget to call me Grandpa 3 times. Chen Hao said disdainfully. Boom. Gu Xian was so angry that his hair stood on end. In an instant, it was as if a 10,000-kilogram boulder had fallen to the ground with a loud bang. His gaze was cold and terrifying to the extreme as he stared at Chen Hao and said, "Keep it well." Bang. Bang. Shortly after, Gu Xian knelt on one knee in front of everyone's eyes. His forehead heavily hit the ground, allowing the Empyrean rank godhead between his brows to connect with the ground. At this moment, endless golden holy light rose from his body, condensing into a golden wave that erupted without any warning. Ah, not good. Shameless. At this moment, countless exclamations rang out. Before anyone could react, the terrifying golden waves drowned Chen Hao, who was in front of Gu Xian. At the same time, Gu Xian's figure also disappeared. However, his entire person seemed to have merged with the endless golden waves. I've reminded you before that no one can withstand the kowtow of this Empyrean. Die. Gu Xian's cold voice came from the golden wave. Bastard, what did you do to Li Yuan? Zap. Sword King Chen Taishi was the first to lose his temper. He took a step forward, arriving in front of the endless golden light. At the same time, he sealed the entire space. Those who go back on their words deserve to die. King Ying also took a step forward. What bullshit, Empyrean. I think you're just a shameless villain. King Luo Ying followed closely behind King Ying. Ha ha ha, new generation Sword King. King Ying, King Luo Ying, very good. Who else wants to come? Come at me. Even if I, Gu Xian, am just Daoyuo Jingxian, I am still the reincarnation of an Empyrean. What can a bunch of ants like you do to me? I've said it before, if I want to leave, no one can stop me. Not to mention you, even the Star River King can't. In the future, I will definitely kill all 3 of you ants who don't know what's good for you. Let him out. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Chen Taishi was enraged. Sharp sword Qi soared to the sky, threatening to erupt at any time. Impolite? How can you be impolite? Kill me if you have the guts, ah? After merging with my Empyrean rank godhead, a tiny ant like you dares to threaten me? Your sword attack will only hasten Li Yuan's death. I have to admit, he is indeed a rare genius for not collapsing in my godhead. Too bad he ran into me, he's dead for sure. How can an Empyrean's prestige be violated? Ha ha ha. At this moment, Gu Xian was like a porcupine in Chen Taishu's and the others' eyes. They couldn't do anything to him, nor could they check Chen Hao's situation inside the godhead space. This made them extremely anxious. Everyone close to Chen Hao was sweating profusely for him. No one had expected Gu Xian to be so despicable, nor did they expect him to fully activate his godhead. After all, fully activating his godhead was equivalent to erasing the possibility of breaking through to the next level. But at this moment, even the 3 conferred Emperor Realm experts were helpless, not to mention Chen Nan and the others. Is that so? Suddenly, Chen Hao's cold voice penetrated the golden waves and Gu Xian's complacent laughter, entering everyone's ears. You still have the ability to speak? Gu Xian exclaimed. You're surprised? How about this? Buzz. Buzz buzz buzz. All of a sudden, the golden waves rolled violently. Ah. 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 At the same time, Gu Xian screamed in fright, one after another. Under everyone's horrified gazes, the golden waves that were struggling became smaller and smaller, and the aura that permeated the air became weaker. Finally, it turned into a walnut-sized godhead, which was held firmly in the hand of a vague shadow. That hand was filled with ancient and mysterious runes, as if it was the head of the heavens that could control all living things. The owner of that hand was none other than Li Yuan. Let me go. Impossible. How could you escape from my godhead space? How could you confine my godhead? Gu Xian's frightened voice came from the godhead. In front of me, anything is possible, Chen Hao said proudly. Swish. Right at this moment, the space suddenly darkened. To everyone's surprise, the Celestial River King, who had been silent all this time, suddenly moved and appeared in front of Chen Hao. Chen Hao frowned slightly, looking at the Celestial River King. That was then, and this was now. Chen Hao, who had always been cautious, did not expect that Sword King, Ing King, and especially Luoying King, these three masters would stand behind him. Although they still could not compete with the Celestial River King, at least they were not without the power to fight back. Moreover, with Gu Xian's godhead in his hands, Chen Hao felt a little more confident. Of course, it was only enough to escape with his life. Chapter 1445. Li Yuan, how about we drop this matter? After all, Gu Xian is the reincarnation of a celestial venerable. A celestial venerable, even in the immortal world, is a supreme existence. Of course, I know that you may not be simple, or even stronger. It can be said that you are the hope of the great world of CND, and the hope to open the door to the immortal world. The death of any one of you is a huge loss for the great world of CND. The faces of King Ying, Chen Taishu and King Luoying suddenly sank. Obviously, they were very unhappy with the words of the Star River King. But they could not fall out with him, so naturally, they had no reason to refute. Haha. But at this time, Chen Hao smiled and stared at the Celestial River King. Celestial River King, you are my idol and my life's master, so I respect you. What you said is very reasonable, but it is unfair to me, don't you think? Voila. Chen Hao's calm words directly ignited the great world of CND. How dare you? The newborn calf is not afraid of the tiger. How dare you say that the Star River King is unfair, and in front of all the cultivators? Unfair. The Star River King frowned slightly. He looked straight at Chen Hao, and a trace of imperceptible anger flashed in his eyes. As the strongest person in the great world of CND, anyone would be flattered and excited to talk to a junior from the Daluo Golden Wonderland. But Chen Hao not only looked calm, but also said that he was unfair in front of everyone. Li Yuan, Sword King Chen Taishu said. He knew the terror of the Star River King, and it was absolutely not a good time to fall out with the Star River King. But as soon as Chen Taishu opened his mouth, Chen Hao waved his hand at him and said, when I was bound by the Godhead space, and Gu Xian was about to win, if you stood up to stop him, even if you could not stop him, I would have no objection to what you said to me at this moment, but you did not. His life is a life, but mine isn't. Now when I was about to kill him, you asked me to stop. Just now when he was about to kill me, you didn't stop him. The more Chen Hao spoke, the more agitated he became, while the Celestial River King's face turned increasingly ugly. No. I am half your disciple, but you don't. No. Seeing that Celestial River King was on the verge of losing his temper, Chen Hao's expression suddenly changed. Looking straight at Celestial River King, his dark eyes started to glow with tears, as if he could not control his emotions, mixed with excitement and grievances. The originally angry Celestial River King, on hearing Chen Hao's words and seeing Chen Hao's agitated and aggrieved look, immediately turned speechless. The anger he felt towards Chen Hao also disappeared in an instant. Forget it, Master didn't stop you before, not because I didn't want to, but because Taishu and the others had already stood up. Now, Taishu and the others naturally can't stop you. So Master can only come out. Since you want to do so, then so be it. After all, as you said, everything you did was within the rules. Celestial River King shook his head. He seemed quite helpless. However, what he said made Chen Hao and everyone else unable to find fault with his words. However, when he called himself master, Chen Hao, King Ying, and King Luoying were not happy. Of course, they would not say anything. Chen Hao had cleverly resolved the possibility of falling out with them. Wasn't this what they wanted? However, Chen Hao only chuckled in his heart. Master? Really a master who shines brightly when given a little sunshine. Celestial River King, save me. If you can save me, I will help you become the first Emperor Realm Master in the great world of CND. The immortal world's gate has opened. With my heavenly venerable Godhead, I can connect to the immortal world and guide the immortal Chi. I will teach you the immortal world's supreme art. In the future, when you ascend to the immortal world, you will become a master that everyone looks up to. Just as the Celestial River King was about to leave, Gu Xian's voice came from the heavenly venerable Godhead in Chen Hao's hand. The Celestial River King was slightly stunned. He turned around to look at the heavenly venerable Godhead in Chen Hao's hand and said, "Sorry. I never forcefully intervene in my disciples' matters." With that said, the Celestial River King returned to the main stage. Although Gu Xian's words were very tempting to him, he was still the strongest person in the great world of CND. How could he go back on his words in front of everyone? Moreover, Gu Xian's words clearly told him that Gu Xian could not escape from Li Yuan's palm. What did this mean? One had to know that Gu Xian had boasted shamelessly that no one could make him stay. But Li Yuan had done it. At the same cultivation level as Li Yuan, Gu Xian had lost the bet, and this time, he had lost completely. Who was stronger and who was weaker was clear at a glance. You can shut your mouth forever. The heavenly venerable Godhead disappeared into Chen Hao's forehead following Chen Hao's words. Qi. In the next second, Chen Hao returned to his seat and sat down cross-legged. His expression was calm as if nothing had happened. However, the way everyone looked at him changed imperceptibly. This was especially true for those who had fully awakened. Although they were shocked that Chen Hao could kill Shi Chao, obtain his godhead, and use it, Shi Chao was just an ordinary reincarnated immortal emperor. Shock was shock, but it did not reach the point of fear. But now, Chen Hao could even seal in heavenly venerable Godhead. Moreover, he was able to counterattack after being trapped in Shi Chao's Godhead space. What kind of amazing ability was this? Wei Wufa and Zhang Yuanzhao, who had been dogs for a short time, were even more frightened at this moment. Especially when Chen Hao casually glanced at them. They were so scared that their legs trembled. What kind of existence was this? Neither of them dared to imagine. Above the heavenly venerable realm, was it something they could touch? Miao Xian glanced sideways at Chen Hao from time to time, but she did not dare to look at him openly, acting like a little girl. At this point, although the final result of the competition was not out, her request for Chen Hao was meaningless. Let the competition continue. The Star River King interrupted the buzzing crowd and signaled to the host. Then the host announced that the competition would continue. Because Gu Xian had merged with his godhead and was suppressed by Chen Hao, Qin Yang, who had come back from the dead, was automatically added to the top 10 list. However, the host asked several questions, but no one went up the stage to challenge. The top 10 of the Daluo Golden Wonderland was finally determined. According to the competition procedure, the top 10 ranking competition would be held after the top 10 of the Grand Miss Supremacy Realm was determined. Therefore, although everyone was looking forward to the top 10 ranking competition, they could only endure for the time being. The thrilling competition of the Daluo Golden Wonderland came to an end. The competition of the Grand Miss Supremacy Realm had officially begun. However, Chen Hao did not watch the competition of Chen Nan and the others. Instead, he took advantage of this gap to inform the crowd, and directly disappeared in front of everyone. Chapter 1446. Even the Star River King, who had been paying close attention to Chen Hao, failed to notice Chen Hao's presence. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Everyone was shocked by this. However, thinking about how Chen Hao could connect to the immortal world, resurrect Qin Yang, and even suppress Gu Xian who had obtained the heavenly venerable Godhead, everyone felt that it was nothing. This must be the reincarnation of an heavenly venerable, or even stronger existence. How could they imagine the immortal world's ultimate techniques he had mastered? It seems that to get the most benefits from this kid, it's best to use the soft approach. My choice is right. The Star River King was very satisfied with his decision not to interfere with Gu Xian. From the beginning of the competition until now, in a short period of time, Chen Hao could be said to have shone brilliantly, attracting the attention of everyone from beginning to end. In the team competition, he won the title of number 1 in comprehension, killing the spirit of all creation Shi Chao. In the individual competition, he fought Xiao Manyan and Xiao Manxia, merged with Chen Qi and Chen Tianhe, resurrected Qin Yang, and Gu Xian, who was the reincarnation of Venerable Exterminate the Heavenly Venerable. Each one of them was thrilling, giving Chen Hao a lot of benefits. Now, he needed time to digest them properly before they could truly become part of his strength. Even if it was just a little bit of time, he had to make full use of it. Although Chen Hao had absolute confidence in the upcoming top 10 ranking competition, for some reason, Gu Xian's appearance and the awakening of countless spirits of all creation made him feel uneasy. Chen Hao did not think that this feeling was just him being paranoid. Of course, the most important thing was that he had appeared in the Star River King's sight, and he had already become the target. Increasing his strength and cultivation realm was pressing on him. This sense of urgency made Chen Hao race against time. Zap! In the vast space, a streak of light streaked across, and a figure appeared. Heavenly Venerable Godhead, shuttling through space, amazing. This figure was Chen Hao, who had disappeared from the Deer Chaser Peak. At this moment, he was staring at the endless space with excitement as he muttered to himself. This speed is comparable to the Star River Tunnel in the chaotic space. As long as I have the coordinates, where can I not go? Even if I don't know the coordinates, the time needed to find Earth would be reduced by a lot. This is the strength of a heavenly venerable in the immortal world. So strong. Master, the preparations are complete. You can begin. At this moment, Old God's voice sounded. So fast. How far is this place from the great world of Xiandi? Don't delay the match with me. Don't worry, Master. It's not far. However, this isn't the chaotic space. It's outside the 9 heavens. Even if a true celestial king were to fly, it would still take 100 years to travel from the great world of Xiandi through the 9 heavens imperial court to here. On the other hand, when we use this Empyrean Godhead, it only takes an instant. Oh, what about the space-time laws? Are you sure it's 10,000 times? In the Heavenly Venerable Godhead space, one can easily achieve 10,000 times the space-time law. This Gu Xian should be one of the weaker ones among the ranks of Empyreans. Even if I do my best, I can only raise it to 13,000 times. Alright, Master, don't waste any more time. Alright. 13,000 times. Even if it's only a day in the real world, it's still more than 30 years. It should be enough. Chen Hao's figure turned into a streak of light, and a golden heavenly venerable godhead appeared in his original position. Clearly, Chen Hao had merged with the golden heavenly venerable godhead. All this while, Chen Hao had done everything he could on his own. He had always adhered to one principle, and that was to not rely on external forces to cultivate. But now, Chen Hao didn't persist any longer. The profundities that had started to awaken in his mind went from blurry to clear. Even though he hadn't had the time to test it out, he noticed that his comprehension of the laws of the Heaven Tao, mental state, will, and many other aspects had already surpassed his own realm by too much. It was absolutely impossible for his foundation to be unstable. Moreover, his Tao was not affected by the awakening of his memories. This was enough for him. Thus, from now on, he needed to raise his cultivation realm and strength with the help of everything. Stepping into the Godhead space, Chen Hao sat down cross-legged and exhaled deeply. He looked at Gu Xian, who was bound by complicated runes in his Godhead space. Let me go, let me go. Li Yuan, you can suppress my Godhead. This is not your power. I refuse to accept this. Gu Xian clamored. A dignified reincarnated heavenly venerable was actually suppressed in his own Godhead space. This was simply a big joke. He refused to accept this. No matter what, he would not accept this. So what? If you have the guts, fight me to the death. Do you think I'm stupid? Moreover, you alone are not worth my time. Your Godhead's pressure can't do anything to me. And neither can you fight me. Just wait. You'll soon see that I'll be able to rely on my own strength to control and refine your Godhead. Refine? Impossible. In the 9 heavens, 10 earths, and 3 realms, no one can refine a Godhead. It belongs to the cultivator's own great Tao. Is that so? Then watch carefully. This is Shi Chao's godhead. I'll let you see it first. Qi. With a flash of golden light, Shi Chao's godhead appeared in front of Chen Hao. In the next instant, Chen Hao's heavenly eye emerged from his spiritual altar. His powerful mental force turned into tangible tendrils that connected to Shi Chao's godhead. Soon, Chen Hao was immersed in a deep level of comprehension. The way to refine a godhead had been awakened in Chen Hao's mind when he had absorbed Gu Xian's godhead. However, it was indeed not something that anyone could perform. However, Chen Hao was one of the people who could perform it. Firstly, it required the body of a Khanate martial emperor. He had always thought that he only had a mortal body. At most, he had the strongest immortal bloodline that contained genetic evolution. But now, Chen Hao knew that he had the body of a Khanate martial emperor, and could integrate many great Daos into his body. Secondly, it required a strong comprehension ability. The prerequisite for refining a godhead was that one had to comprehend the great Tao contained in the godhead. Otherwise, it would be impossible to refine it. Lastly, one had to be strong enough. These 4 words contained too much information. The most direct was the state of mind, will, soul power, and so on. As for the rest, even Chen Hao himself was not sure. Because he had only awakened a little of the unique skill inheritance, he had not awakened any memories. The only thing he was sure of was that he was strong enough. Qi. After half a year under the abnormal space-time laws, Chen Hao, whose aura was constantly changing, suddenly opened his eyes. Qi. Then, Shi Chao's godhead shook violently. Rays of golden energy escaped from the godhead and merged into Chen Hao's glabella under Gu Xian's fearful gaze. As time passed, Shi Chao's godhead became smaller and smaller. However, the amount of golden energy that Chen Hao's glabella absorbed increased and condensed into the lines of the godhead. Refining a godhead, how is this possible? No, I don't want to die. Chapter 1447. I don't want to die. Li Yuan, no, grandfather, please don't refine me. I am the reincarnation of Heavenly Lord Taixian. My father is Heavenly Lord Jiuxian. I am willing to submit to you and be at your beck and call. As long as you don't refine me, I can give you everything I have, including my strongest Heavenly Lord technique and the immortal world's secret treasures. When Shi Chao's godhead completely disappeared, becoming the godhead in Chen Hao's forehead, Gu Xian, the heavenly venerable Gu Xian, finally lost his courage. He threw away his pride and dignity as an heavenly venerable and begged for mercy like a stray dog. It had to be said that the stronger a person was, the more they feared death. At this moment, Gu Xian was even worse than an ordinary cultivator. However, if Wei Wufa and the rest were here, they would definitely be shocked by Gu Xian's 2 titles, Heavenly Lord Taixian and Heavenly Lord Jiuxian. Especially Heavenly Lord Jiuxian, who was ranked 4th in the immortal world. His battle strength was terrifying, and his status in the immortal world was comparable to King Ying's in the great world of Xiandi. Unfortunately, these were useless against Chen Hao. Fuck off. You think you're worthy of being my grandson? Why do I need you to give me everything you have? I only need to refine your godhead, and I'll have everything. Chen Hao kicked Gu Xian's face. I'll give you a little more time to live. When I finish fusing my 8 lives, it'll be time to refine you. No, please let me go. Gu Xian screamed in fear. Unfortunately, no matter how much Gu Xian screamed, Chen Hao ignored him and immersed himself in cultivation. This time he wanted to truly fuse with the other 7 lives. This would take a long time. This was because what Chen Hao wanted was a selective true fusion, not a complete fusion. He didn't want dregs. Evil thoughts, he didn't want them. To Chen Hao, this kind of fusion was like a Tao severing. Because, no matter which life it was a part of his origin. This was an unchangeable fact. The Daoyuo Golden Wonderland's cutting path, what kind of concept was that? In fact, had it not been for the accident with Chen Tianhe, Chen Hao might have continued to cultivate the 9 lives mystic technique. After all, he had already started and had 7 lives. If he had 1 more life, he would have completed all 9 lives. Whether it was 9 by 9 to 1, breaking the 9 limits, or giving birth to a heaven-defying 10th life, he would have been able to improve much more after fusion. Especially when he had completed the fusion in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, he would have been able to cut the path immediately. It could be said that he had killed 2 birds with 1 stone. 20 years should be enough for me to fuse with the space-time laws. After that, I'll go to Shi Chao's Godhead space to refine Gu Xian's Godhead. Although the space-time laws are a few times weaker than before, they're still 2,000 times stronger. Chen Hao focused his mind and began the true fusion. Deer Chasing Peak. When Chen Hao began to truly integrate the 7 lives, the first round of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm competition had just begun. Chen Nan. Morong Qianhua stared at Chen Nan, who was standing with his hands behind his back. His eyes shone with a strong desire to fight. Chen Nan was slightly stunned. He glanced sideways at Morong Qianhua, whose aura was extremely powerful and whose desire to fight was soaring wildly. Do we have a grudge? Number 6. Oh, the Dahua Academy. Morong Qianhua. We'll be in the same academy soon. You're looking at me with such hatred. You're jealous of my brother, aren't you? Chen Nan's indifferent voice, calm expression, and words were extremely harsh in Morong Qianhua's ears. His words were undoubtedly on the mark, and they were also blatant contempt. Morong Qianhua, who had always been good at disguising himself, didn't seem to hide his expression at this moment. It was ferocious and distorted. It was a blatant display of one's emotions. Jealous? No matter how strong he is, he's just a Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. What's there for me to be jealous of? Your expression has already betrayed you. It seems that you have a deep grudge with my brother. However, the fact that you're still alive shows that you're just an ant in my brother's eyes. He can't be bothered to waste his time on you. In that case, let me help my brother deal with you. Your strength is not bad for me. You. Morong Qianhua's already distorted mentality was directly provoked by Chen Nan's words. With a boom, he was completely ignited. I, Morong Qianhua, am not inferior to anyone. You, Li Yuan, will be ruthlessly trampled under my feet. You're just stepping stones on my path to becoming an immortal emperor, all of you. Starlight illuminates the world. A dash. Chi chi chi. The bright and violent starlight suddenly bloomed from Morong Qianhua's body and directly attacked Chen Nan. After frowning slightly, Chen Nan released an incomparably fierce aura. At the same time, he took a step forward instead of retreating. Number 6 challenges Number 1 Chen Nan. Morong Qianhua from the Dahua Academy and Chen Nan from the Baihui Academy. Didn't they say that the monstrous disciples of the Baihui Academy, who are related to Li Yuan, may join the Dahua Academy? Why would Morong Qianhua challenge Chen Nan? I heard that Chen Nan is Li Yuan's younger brother. This Morong Qianhua is really bold. It's fine if he loses, but if he eliminates Chen Nan, how could Li Yuan let him off easily? Haha, you don't know as well as I do. Let me tell you, Chen Si from the Dahua Academy, who has now become Prince Ying's disciple. Do you know him? Nonsense, of course I know him. Chen Si is Li Yuan's Taoist companion, and Morong Qianhua is Chen Si's fanatical admirer. He and Li Yuan are enemies. Of course, Li Yuan did not reveal such terrifying talent and strength before. Now Morong Qianhua still dares to provoke Li Yuan's younger brother. It's really unbelievable. I have to admit that I admire his courage. I'm afraid he's crazy, or he's possessed by the devil. Maybe. But then again, without Li Yuan, Morong Qianhua would definitely be the most talented person in the 2 realms in the Dahua Academy. You may not know, but Morong Qianhua's Yin spirit is very strong. The most promising team in the Hongming realm in the Dahua Academy was formed by him, the Starlight team. He's the captain of the Starlight team? Inside and outside the arena, countless cultivators were discussing. Many teachers and disciples of the Dahua Academy, who had rushed to watch Morong Qianhua's competition, were quite speechless at this time, including Cheng Wanxiang. How is it? Rulan looked at Dean Cheng Wanxiang and said, Now you believe me. Didn't he look fine before? How did he completely lose control? In the space of the immortal realm, he was almost invincible among his peers. He led the Starlight team to make a name for himself. But in reality, after he was born, the limelight was stolen by Li Yuan, a cultivator who was 1 realm lower than him. The woman who put down all her dignity and pursued him has never looked at him directly. But she is one of Li Yuan's many beautiful Taoist companions, and even the one who is not outstanding at all. Chapter 1448. Li Yuan's performance has stimulated his nerves time and time again, exceeding his imagination, and becoming an existence that he can't even look up to in his heart. He was unwilling, very unwilling. This unwillingness made him crazy and made him want to prove himself. Now that he's met Chen Nan, Li Yuan's brother has undoubtedly become his outlet to vent. Rulan said slowly, since he can't find balance in Li Yuan, it's indeed a good choice to vent on Li Yuan's brother. If he really does vent, he should be able to wake up from his twisted and crazy state. Unfortunately, what a perverted brother. Although he's not that perverted, he's still very perverted. Ruoxian continued Rulan's words. What a pity. I'd better go watch Chen Xi's match. Cheng Wanxiang said helplessly. He couldn't bear to watch any longer. Morong Qianhua was a direct descendant of Dehua. His future was limitless, but now, under Morong Qianhua's crazy attacks, Chen Nan seemed to be taking a stroll in the park. He destroyed his attacks very casually and naturally. Anyone could see that if Chen Nan wanted to kill Morong Qianhua, there was no suspense at all. Even the token protection couldn't save him in time. But Chen Nan didn't do that. It wasn't that Chen Nan was soft-hearted, but that Rulan had specifically told him before the start of the match. Chen Nan also asked about the conflict between Morong Qianhua and his brother. Although this guy was as annoying as a fly, since Rulan had spoken, and his brother didn't kill him, Chen Nan reluctantly agreed. However, he could avoid the death penalty, but he couldn't escape punishment. At this moment, Chen Nan was teasing and ravaging Morong Qianhua. Ao Qian Lingfeng and the others were satisfied. They were one realm lower, but they had suffered a lot from Morong Qianhua. They couldn't wait for Chen Nan to ravage this guy to death. When Morong Qianhua was no longer human, his expression was still crazy. His attacks were more and more desperate, and most of them were attacks that destroyed everything. You're not even worthy of carrying my brother's shoes. How can you compare with him? My brother can kill you when he's at the Daoyuo realm. If Teacher Rulan hadn't pleaded for you, you would be dead by now. Don't force me. Chen Nan was truly angry. Even though Chen Nan was stronger than Morong Qianhua, he could not bear such a desperate fighting style. Moreover, Chen Nan found that the crazy Morong Qianhua seemed to be getting braver as he fought. What made Chen Nan even more uneasy was that Morong Qianhua seemed to be giving birth to a force from the inside out. It was the force from the Yin spirit. Although Chen Nan had not yet comprehended the mystery of the Yin spirit, she already had some understanding of the Yin spirit. At this moment Morong Qianhua, who had almost entered the state of madness, had undoubtedly stepped into the subtle state of awakening the Yin spirit. Once it was awakened, it would undoubtedly be terrifying. At this time, countless experts who were paying attention to this place also noticed some clues. This Morong Qianhua is obviously possessed by the devil, but he actually stepped into madness. The explosion of the small universe even awakened his Yin spirit. Is this a blessing in disguise? How rare. This is more interesting. What's the point of a one-sided battle? Ah. The people who were discussing suddenly burst into exclamations. When Morong Qianhua still had no intention of stopping after Chen Nan finished his words, he suddenly disappeared into thin air. Immediately, a sharp and extremely mysterious sword light, like a stroke of God, pierced through the back of Morong Qianhua's head and between his eyebrows before he could react. To be exact, before the onlookers could see clearly what was going on, a cold sword had pierced through the back of Morong Qianhua's head. It was extremely strange. It was unbelievably fast. Immediately, when the protective light of the token rose, Morong Qianhua's head exploded like a watermelon. It was torn apart and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Dead. Morong Qianhua was dead. Teacher Rulan, I'm sorry, Chen Nan said lightly. He knew that Rulan and the others were watching his match and could naturally hear his words. Chen Nan, who had died once, would not test how strong his combat strength was at this time. Being too arrogant and overconfident was giving others a chance. If it was not handled well, he would be doomed eternally. This was something he would never allow. He had promised Ruolin that he would try his best not to kill Morong Qianhua. When he was threatened, there was no reason to let him awaken his Yin spirit and threaten him. So straightforward. What a powerful sword. This Chun Nan has the strength to make it to the top 10. Li Yuan is so abnormal, and his brother is also abnormal. Is he also the reincarnation of the spirit of all things? Chun Nan's unexpected sword shocked countless people. Good kill, ha. The fly is finally dead. Damn, but this fly is really unusual. Fortunately, it's brother Nan. He is indeed the brother of the boss, ha ha ha. Ha ha. Ao Qian and Ling Feng were stunned at first, and then they laughed unscrupulously. Maybe this is his destiny. It's a pity. The teachers from the school of Dahua were quite helpless. But no one, including Ruolin and Ruoxian, blamed Chun Nan. After all, Chun Nan's strength was limited. Facing the increasingly crazy Morong Qianhua, he could no longer hold back. Otherwise, he might be the one to lose. In the immortal realm, Chen Wuliang, Han Mei, and Shui Mei had been laughing from ear to ear. They had known that their son was powerful, but they did not expect him to be so powerful. Chen Hao had completely exceeded their imagination. And now Chun Nan, who had become the target of the immortal realm, showed amazing strength, which made Chen Wuliang excited. In another area, Xi Xian, who had become a disciple of the Jade Girl Palace, was also representing the Dahua school. Although her time under King Ying's special training was very limited, her aura at this moment was amazing compared to when she was in the Dahua school. There was no doubt that King Ying had paid a high price for her. Although Xi Xian was not a seated player, she just stood there and no one challenged her. This was not because of her identity as a disciple of the Jade Girl Palace, but because of her aura. She definitely had the strength of a seated player, which made others flinch and dare not provoke her. After the first round, Xi Xian, Chun Nan, Pan Long, Du Jing, Lan Feng, Chun Ling, Li Yang, and Long Yi all advanced to the top 100,000. And Chun Nan was still a seated player. Unfortunately, after the second round, only Xi Xian, Chun Nan, Pan Long, and Du Jing advanced to the top 1,000. In the third round, Pan Long and Du Jing also stopped, and Xi Xian and Chun Nan successfully entered the top 100. In the end, Chun Nan, who became braver and braver, stood in the top 10. And in the challenge, he stood until the end and became one of the top 10. Although Xi Xian had unearthed amazing potential under King Ying's special training, because of the short time, she did not enter the top 10. However, such a record was already amazing. Chapter 1451. After the top 10 of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm's individual ranking competition was decided, the competition came to an end for the time being. All the contestants rested for 3 days before the top 10 ranking competition between the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland and the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm began. This was also the most anticipated battle for all the cultivators. These 3 days of rest were undoubtedly crucial for the top 10 contestants of the two realms. Dincheng. When the host announced the end of the competition, to everyone's surprise, the Star River King appeared directly in front of everyone from the Taoist Academy. Senior Star River King Yu. Where did Li Yuan go? He should have told you, right? This. Senior Star River King, Li Yuan only told me that he wouldn't delay the top 10 ranking competition, but he didn't say where exactly he went. Oh, I wanted to use these 3 days to give him the strongest special training. No matter what, he is still my disciple. But since that's the case, forget it. If he returns, inform me immediately. Yes, Senior Star River King. Cheng Wanxiang said respectfully. He only knew that Li Yuan had a little relationship with the Star River King, because of Chen Tianhe. In his opinion, Chen Tianhe no longer existed, and Li Yuan only belonged to the Taoist Academy. How could he be the Star River King's disciple? But he naturally couldn't say such words. Moreover, Cheng Wanxiang knew that the Star River King's Li Yuan definitely had an ulterior motive because she, that is the Fallen Flower King, King Ying, and Sword King Chen Taishu, deliberately showed an attitude. Little elephant, you really don't know? Master, it's true. You and the Star River King couldn't lock onto his aura. This is really unbelievable. Cheng Wanxiang said respectfully. The disciples and teachers of the Taoist Academy, especially Shui Fian, looked at this scene with surprise and amusement. The Fallen Flower King called Cheng Wanxiang Little Elephant, and Cheng Wanxiang called the Fallen Flower King Master. Then, wasn't Cheng Wanxiang Xuefian's senior brother? Although this kid is Daoyuo Jingxian, he is unfathomable. He could even take the heavenly venerable godhead, so it's not a problem for him to escape everyone's perception. He can come back and ignore Xiaoxinghe. Yes, master. Sword King Chen Taishu and King Ying also left after hearing King Luo Ying's words. However, before Sword King Chen Taisu left, he said something to Chen Nan, and actually took Chen Nan away. Obviously, Chen Taishi wanted to help Chen Nan, who had stepped into the top 10 of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. In everyone's opinion, it should be because of Li Yuan. In fact, Chen Nan was Chen Taishu's nephew. Xi Xian left with Prince Ying as usual. As for Chen Shui, Helian Wuxi and the others who had already finished their journey in the competition, they all went to the palace where the Academy of Dahua was located. They had already reached an agreement with Parkway Academy. Midnight. The night sky was clear, and the stars were shining brightly. A figure silently floated out from a palace in the deepest part of Zhulu Academy. Immediately, it transformed into an undetectable ray of light and disappeared into the horizon. Chi. After a while, the space barrier did not fluctuate at all and directly split open. That figure appeared in the chaotic space and did not stop at all, heading towards the depths of the chaotic space. His speed was so fast that even the Sword King, King Ying, and the others would be shocked if they saw him. Who else in the world could make Prince Ying and the Sword King flabbergasted? The Celestial River King. The figure that was heading towards the depths of the chaotic space at a terrifying speed was the Celestial River King. The Celestial River King went for a full 2 hours. When he reached the area where the spatial storm was strong enough to tear apart an ordinary true immortal king, he finally stopped. With a wave of his hand he condensed a pure land, blocking the terrifying spatial storm outside. Hiss! At this moment, a figure flew out from between the Celestial River King's eyebrows and directly knelt on the ground. Greetings, great ancestor. This figure was the #1 person of the Xiao family in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, Xiao Jiutian. There's not much time, get up. Great ancestor. What are we doing? Xiao Jiutian looked around in confusion. He had already entered the great world in the great ancestor's mind to cultivate. He did not understand why the great ancestor had summoned him. I will temporarily split a part of my life to fuse with you. Ah, great ancestor. You don't have to worry. You are the old ancestor's favorite disciple. How can I kill you? Unfortunately, with your current strength, it is impossible for you to take first place in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland's ranking competition. Great ancestor, I am confident. Although Li Yuan is the spirit of all living beings, and is extremely powerful, how can I be sure without a real battle? I must. You are just making a judgment based on your years of invincibility. You are not his opponent. The Celestial River King waved his hand and interrupted Xiao Jiutian. You have awakened 80% of my bloodline, and the remaining 20% belongs to you. No one will notice if I split a part of my life to fuse with you temporarily. You should be clear about my purpose. Godhead. Yes. In the top 10 besides you, Miao Xian, Qing Yang, and Ning Jing, Li Yuan, Su Junfeng, Tang Haotian, Wei Wufa, Zhan Yuan Zhao, and Song Long Yuan are all spirits of all living beings. Each of them has a godhead. Especially Li Yuan, who has Gu Xian's heavenly venerable godhead and Shi Chao's godhead. I must obtain them no matter what. When the time comes, I will give you a chance to comprehend them. Oh, great ancestor, Li Yuan. Didn't you recognize him as your disciple? Xiao Jiutian asked. Even though the Celestial River King was his ancestor, Xiao Jiutian still felt a little repulsed by the Celestial River King's temporary fusion with him. That was not what he wanted. As the Xiao family's #1 genius, he wanted to win the first place fair and square with his own strength. Only then could he win the fortune and temper himself. If he couldn't escape my perception, I wouldn't have done this. Unfortunately, he has exposed a concealment ability that is beyond my knowledge. In such a situation, if he has any ulterior motives, wouldn't my efforts be in vain? Therefore, I must hold him firmly in my hands. And the ranking competition is no doubt the best opportunity, the Celestial River King said. You have seen it for yourself. King Ying, Chen Taishu, and Luoying King are standing on Li Yuan's side. If I miss this opportunity, even if I want to attack him, it will be difficult. After explaining so much to you, I only hope that you can understand and cooperate with me. Otherwise, if there is a slight abnormality in your aura, King Ying and Luoying King will sense it. I understand, Great Ancestor. I will do my best to cooperate with you. Xiao Jiutian said without a choice. What the Celestial River King didn't know was that 2 hours after he left the Zhulu Academy's palace, King Ying's figure appeared. However, King Ying didn't hide. Instead, he openly came to the Celestial River King's palace. After standing there for a full 2 minutes, he erased his aura and quietly left. Today's update. I won't repay my debt first. I haven't written for a few days. I need to think about it carefully. Chapter 1452. How is it? When King Ying returned to the palace where Jade Maiden Palace was located, Sword King Chen Taishu and King Luoying, who had arrived at some point, couldn't wait to ask. Sure enough, he is not in the palace. King Ying frowned slightly. So, he really went to find Li Yuan? Sword King Chen Taishu said worriedly. It must be. Since Star River King can't lock Li Yuan's aura, with his character, how can he just wait? When Li Yuan left, he didn't tell us where he was going. No, since he has taken action, we can't just wait. In any case, we can't let anything happen to Li Yuan. King Luoying, you are good at deduction. Why don't you try? I can't deduce Li Yuan's situation, his fate is a blur. Sword King Chen Taishu said. This kid is someone who has jumped out of the 3 realms, and is not part of the 5 elements. I am unable to deduce anything about him, King Luoying said, after a slight pause. However, I can try to deduce based on his woman. Your disciple Miao Xian seems to have reached the point of telepathy with him. How about using Miao Xian to deduce? No problem. After Chen Taishu finished speaking, he directly took out a drop of blood essence and said, This is Xian's blood essence. When is this blood essence? I mean, before or after she met Li Yuan. This is from before. Is there a big difference? Of course. I want to deduce Li Yuan's location through Miao Xian, so naturally I need their blood essence after they met. You have me. Okay. Wait a moment. Miao Xian and Qing Yang were in Chen Taishu's mind world at the moment, so after Chen Taishu finished speaking, a drop of blood essence floated out from between his eyebrows. Obviously, this time he asked for it from Miao Xian. This is now. King Luoying, are you sure? It's hard to say, let's try. If it doesn't work, we will act separately. We can't just wait. Okay, I will start now. Luoying King's aura changed as soon as he finished speaking. His entire body became ethereal in an instant. At the same time, a series of mysterious and strange magic symbols emerged from his hand and struck Miao Xian's blood essence. An ethereal aura spread out as if the river of fate had been opened. Her nimble hands were using runes to capture the information she needed from the river of life. She was mumbling something under her breath, but even King Ying and Chen Taishu could not understand what she was saying. Is this the fusion of deduction and fate? Chen Taishu was surprised. Luoying's deduction technique is much stronger than before. He must have comprehended a little bit of the Great Destiny technique, right? King Ying was equally surprised. King Luoying was proficient in the Great Deduction technique. However, at that moment, the ethereal aura contained the aura of the River of Destiny. It was an aura that could only be captured when they appeared to comprehend the mysteries of the heavens. However, at that moment, King Luoying had actually used it. In fact, many true immortal kings would occasionally appear to comprehend the mysteries of the heavens when they were cultivating. Even if they managed to capture a little bit of it, it would be a guide for the cultivator or their disciples. It could also be considered as their deduction. It was just like Chen Taishu's deduction of Miao Xian entering the Emperor Star secret realm. However, such a chance to comprehend the mysteries of the heavens was like an epiphany. It could only be chanced upon and not sought. However, King Luoying, a true expert in deduction, could actually take the initiative to use this technique. After a full hour, a shadow suddenly appeared and rushed into the sky. Unfortunately, Chen Taishu and King Ying could not see it at all. However, in King Luoying's eyes it was Chen Hao's shadow. After the shadow flashed 9 times, it disappeared along with Miao Xian's blood essence. 9 heavens? King Luoying looked at King Ying and Chen Taishu in shock, as if he had discovered something unbelievable. What do you mean? King Ying and Chen Taishu did not understand what King Luoying meant. The result of my deduction is that Li Yuan is above the 9 heavens. What? How is this possible? Above the 9 heavens? Even for us, it would take dozens of years to pass through the 9 heavens imperial court. How could Li Yuan reach above the 9 heavens in such a short period of time? That's why I'm so surprised. The result of this deduction should be correct. Miao Xian and he are already connected and their destinies are intertwined. Although we are still unable to capture his aura in the river of life, Miao Xian's aura has his shadow. There shouldn't be a mistake. Qi. Just as King Luoying said this, a mysterious spatial fluctuation suddenly appeared in the void where the 3 of them were standing. Ah! Immediately, the 3 of them widened their eyes in shock and cried out in surprise. The 3 of them were the most powerful people in the great world of CND. How could they lose their composure like this? Obviously, they had seen something unbelievable. Senior King Ying, Senior King Luoying, uncle, are you looking for me? As Chen Hao's voice sounded, his figure appeared out of thin air, and his gaze landed on King Luoying. He did not avoid King Ying and King Luoying when he addressed Chen Taishu. Good lad. You, what kind of secret art is this? Not to mention that you appeared out of thin air in front of us. How did you know we were here, and how did you know we were looking for you? Don't tell me you were hiding nearby. King Sword Chen Hao looked at Chen Hao and asked a series of questions. Chen Hao laughed in front of Chen Taishu's eyes and said, I sensed it. It should be Senior King Luoying who used Miao Xian as the foundation to deduce my location, right? Therefore, I locked onto Senior King Luoying's aura and came here. As for the divine ability, I won't hide it from uncle. There are some that I inherited, and some that came from the ancient mystic Empyrean Godhead. For example, the ability to travel through space. The 3 of them were shocked. Travel through space. You were really above the 9 heavens just now? It was beyond the 9 heavens. Why are you looking for me in such a hurry? Is there something wrong? Chen Hao corrected Chen Taishu's words and asked. When he had miraculously sensed that someone was spying on him through the river of life, he had sensed Miao Xian's aura. However, it was impossible for Miao Xian of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland to have such an ability. However, since she had used this method to find him, and he had just finished all his cultivation, he naturally locked onto her aura and traveled through space. It had to be said that Chen Hao had been enlightened by old God. After accepting himself, it was fine when he did not encounter anything. However, once he encountered something, he would automatically awaken the related divine ability. It was just like how he had managed to deduce King Luoying's location. This was something that the previous him would definitely not be able to do. After all, in the past he had never been able to learn anything about the mysteries of divination and fate. However, now that he had accepted the past and dared to face the future, everything seemed to have changed. Chapter 1453. Beyond the 9 heavens. The boundless starry sky and the myriad of galaxies. Regardless of whether it was for mortals or powerful true immortal kings, they were all vast and mysterious. Although there was only a difference of a single word between the 9 heavens and the 9 heavens, there was a difference of heaven and earth. Beyond the 9 heavens was the chaotic space near the barrier of the great 1,000 worlds. Beyond the 9 heavens was the depths of the chaotic space. Even true immortal kings wouldn't easily step beyond the 9 heavens, as it was a very dangerous place. It was easy to get lost in the endless galaxies and never return. After a few seconds, King Ying and the other 2 regained their senses from the shock. It's nothing. We were just worried that the Star River King would harm you, so we came out to take a look. King Ying said. It didn't affect your cultivation, right? Why don't you come to my great world? Otherwise, my space-time can be condensed to 2,800 times. Thank you for your kindness, Senior King Ying. but I don't need to cultivate for the time being. So fast. Chen Taishu was surprised. King Luoying and King Ying were no exception. They knew that Chen Hao needed to fully integrate the 9 lives. Based on their understanding of the 9 lives profound technique, it would take some time. If Miao Xian and Qing Yang need it, let them come to my space. Gu Xian's Godhead space has 30,000 times the space-time law. Chen Hao smiled slightly and said calmly. Chen Hao had already refined Gu Xian's Godhead. In other words, Gu Xian's heavenly venerable Godhead and Shi Chao's Godhead had completely fused together and became one with the great world in Chen Hao's mind, becoming Chen Hao's Godhead. The space-time law had improved by a large margin compared to before. Chen Hao, King Ying, and King Luoying looked at each other speechlessly. In just a few minutes, the 3 of them, the top 3 in the great world of Xiandi, were shocked to the point of being numb by Chen Hao, 30,000 times the space-time law. What kind of concept was that? There was another point. Chen Hao was just a Daoyuo golden wonderland. Even if it was a Godhead space, could it ignore the restrictions of cultivation realm? Qi. 2 streams of light flew out from between Chen Taishu's eyebrows, after which, Qing Yang and Miao Xian appeared in front of the 4 people. The moment Miao Xuan saw Chen Hao, her face turned red, and she avoided Chen Hao's gaze. Qing Yang came back from the dead, and even obtained the immortal qi that you guided. He needs time to properly digest it. As for Xian Xian, I need to have a good chat with you. No problem, right? Chen Taishu said bluntly. Of course there's no problem. It's just immortal energy, and there's plenty of it. It's very easy to refine it. It's just that comprehending it might require a certain realm. What did you say? You have a lot of immortal qi? Chen Taishu, Prince Ying, and Prince Luoying widened their eyes once again, and looked at Chen Hao with fervent gazes. Chen Taishu even lost his composure and grabbed Chen Hao's shoulder. It's in the space of the Godhead. If you need it, you can also enter. Chen Hao said with a smile. He naturally knew that what he said now was very shocking to Chen Taishu and the others. However, at this moment, Chen Hao clearly felt the change in his mentality. Even though he hadn't awakened his past memories, and had only awakened the absolute art inheritance, his horizons and knowledge had undergone a huge change. These things that were enough to shock the great world of Xiandi were nothing in his eyes. He was still himself, but his horizons and his mentality had completely surpassed this world. The only difference was his realm. His person, his heart, and his consciousness were already standing at a height that this world couldn't reach. He was high up and looked down on all living things. All right. Really? This is good too. Chen Taishu, Prince Ying and Prince Luoying said different things, but their slightly excited expressions were the same. Moreover, anyone could see that they were trying their best to suppress their emotions for the sake of their reputation. Otherwise, with their status, they would lose their composure in front of a cultivator from the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. Buzz. Chen Hao smiled and a bright and sacred golden light shone from between his eyebrows. It was clearly a small dot, but it was like a space-time gate that led to another greater world. It was shocking. You can go in now, Chen Hao said. Master, junior sister, I'll go in first. Qing Yang didn't stand on ceremony and stepped in first. Xian, Master is going in too. Haha. Chen Taishu said and directly entered between Chen Hao's eyebrows. Pust. A ray of light suddenly floated out from between Prince Luoying's eyebrows and Xuefian appeared. Immediately, 2 rays of light appeared from between Prince Ying's eyebrows. Xian and another beauty appeared at the same time. It was Ningjing, the chief grand heavenly of the Jade Maiden Palace, who had entered the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland and represented the Jade Maiden Palace in the top 10. Fian. Chen Hao smiled and greeted Xuefian. Xian went to his side and looked like a cultivation partner. Naturally, there was no need for him to greet her. Fatty, Xuefian habitually called out. However, because her master was a fated person and called Chen Hao Tushu in front of everyone, she didn't know how to face Chen Hao. After all, they had maintained a sibling relationship, and Chen Hao was their boss. You go in with Xian first. Later, I'll call our people in, Chen Hao said very naturally. Xuefian responded. Because of Chen Hao's natural behavior, Her anxious mood became slightly calmer. Come, let's go in first. Prince Luoying pulled Xuefian and entered between Chen Hao's eyebrows. Of course she was excited. Chen Hao, my disciple Ning Jing, you already know her. Can you go in with me? Prince Ying said. Now, although Prince Ying was Chen Hao's elder, she couldn't speak to Chen Hao as an elder. Firstly, the communication between them was really limited. Secondly, Chen Hao was now an unfathomable existence in her heart. Moreover, he was the reincarnation of a mighty person from the immortal world. How could she treat him as a junior? The place is very big. Of course, there's no problem. Li Yuan, thank you. However, thank you. I still want to fight with you in the top 10 ranking competition. Welcome. Chen Hao nodded in response. Ning Jing smiled and took her master Prince Ying's arm. Together, they entered between Chen Hao's eyebrows. Suddenly, only Chen Hao and Miao Xian were left at the scene. Why aren't you going in? Are you really going to have a good chat like your master and my uncle said? I don't mind. You. What about me? Chen Hao smiled faintly as he looked calmly at Miao Xian, who was infuriated by his words, and asked in reply. I was very grateful to you. I also felt that I had wronged you before. Only now do I realize. I am a scoundrel. This is who I am. The truest me. If you don't like it, you can choose not to take responsibility. I have plenty of women. You saw it too. I don't lack you. You're shameless. Miao Xian was so angry that her chest heaved. Responsibility? Who was responsible for who? So what if he had plenty of women? The worst thing was that Chen Hao's expression and tone were too calm. He was so calm that he didn't seem to care about her at all. Miao Xian felt that she couldn't continue the conversation with Chen Hao. She turned into a stream of light and entered between Chen Hao's eyebrows. Miao Xian, who was in Chen Hao's so-called godhead space, which was actually the world in his mind, let out a shriek as if she was about to collapse. That was because she heard Chen Hao's infuriating words. TSK, I thought you would leave. Aren't you reluctant to part with your big brother? Chapter 1454. Everyone, including Sword King Chen Hao, King Ying, and King Luoying, looked at the scene in front of them in shock after stepping into Chen Hao's so-called divine spark dimension. The space-time laws were so powerful that they could not deduce it. The thick and pure immortal qi, the terrifying vitality, and the endless mysterious Dao laws filled the entire dimension. No, to be exact, it was a great world. This was far beyond their imagination. The Dao manifestation immortal fruit tree and the tree of life were rooted in the spirit fountain sea and connected to the 9 heavens and 10 earths. They gathered endless Dao laws and absorbed boundless immortal qi and endless life force, causing the entire spirit fountain sea to undergo a qualitative change. Immortal qi coiled around and vitality flourished. Is this really just a divine spark dimension? It doesn't look like it. Although we don't have a divine spark, according to the records I read, the divine spark dimension is just a Sumeru dimension. However, Li Yuan's dimension is obviously the aura of a great world, and it's many times more powerful than my sword Dao great world. No way. Qing Yang, Xuefian, and the angry Miao Xian who came later were all in disbelief. That's the truth. This kid is really heaven-defying. Earth, what kind of existence is that? Could it be that it's even more powerful than the immortal realm? King Ying said softly, staring at Chen Hao's vast and boundless great world. Earth? King Luoying was slightly stunned. Xuefian, Qing Yang, and Miao Xian were also surprised. Obviously, apart from Xi Xian, Chen Hao, and King Ying, no one else knew about Chen Hao's true identity. Nothing. King Ying knew he had said something wrong and shook his head. In fact, there were no outsiders present, but it was best that fewer people knew about Chen Hao's true identity. After all, in the world of cultivation, as long as one's divine ability was powerful, even the dead could not keep secrets. The best way to keep secrets was to not know. 30,000 times the space-time laws, such thick immortal qi, and the heavenly Dao laws that even we can't comprehend. Even for the 3 of us, this is a rare place for cultivation. Let's not waste time. Those palaces must have been prepared for us, right? Let's all go. Prince Ying said. Countless palaces stood under the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree, and the tree of life. The immortal qi was extremely thick, and colorful rays of light shone out in all directions. Even though none of them had been to the celestial realm, at this moment, they felt that this was an existence that wasn't inferior to the celestial realm. Alright. The Sword King Chen Hao also didn't want too many people to know about Chen Hao's secret, so he took the initiative to respond. After he finished speaking, he stepped out with King Ying. Xi Xian, Xue Fian, Qin Yang, Miao Xian, and Ning Jing followed the three seniors to the palaces. Each of them chose a palace and entered it. Wang. Space shook and Chen Hao, who was standing in the air, disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the palace that Zhulu Academy had arranged for Hua Academy. All of Zhulu Academy's restrictions were useless against Chen Hao, who had traveled through the starry sky. The moment Chen Hao appeared, his eyes of fire and gold appeared. He swept his gaze across the palace and clearly saw the rooms that everyone was in. As for the scenes that he accidentally saw that he shouldn't have seen, it was naturally unavoidable. However, with Chen Hao's current mental state, he was already easily able to attain the state of see no evil, hear no evil. Hiss. Chen Hao disappeared on the spot. In one of the rooms, Chen Shui, who was sitting cross-legged and immersed in cultivation, suddenly trembled and made a soft sound. However, it was only for a moment. She suddenly turned around and threw herself into the arms of the person who had sneakily hugged her. She hugged him tightly. "Brother, my aura changed. How did you know it was me? Who else would be so bored other than you? Do you think this is the street?" Chen Shui said coquettishly. Her beautiful face was full of happiness. How many years of waiting was that? Tao companions, eternal Tao companions on the road to the great Tao. However, on their journey to the peak of the great Tao, the only time they had together was when they first started cultivating. That was her most beautiful memory, her sweetest yearning. Now, how long had she waited before she finally had this rare time alone? Once again throwing herself into Chen Hao's arms, Chen Shui's memory was like a dream. Although her face was full of happiness and her mouth was relaxed, as she buried her head in Chen Hao's chest, 2 streaks of tears flowed out uncontrollably from her eyes. Chen Hao held Chen Shui's slender waist with one hand and patted Chen Shui's back with the other. He comforted Chen Shui, but didn't say anything. This was something that couldn't be avoided on the road to the peak of the martial Tao. How could one set foot on the peak of the martial Tao while being intimate with each other under the moonlight? Since she had chosen, she had to endure the loneliness and solitude and move forward bravely. After hugging each other tightly for a full 2 minutes, Chen Hao gently separated from Chen Shui and said, "You go into my mental world first. We'll talk later." "Okay," Chen Shui replied. She didn't ask why and directly entered between Chen Hao's eyebrows. Buzz. Chen Hao's figure shook and once again appeared in a room. Helian Wuzi, Xia Yuyu, Tantai Lian Long Ting Lung Ning Huan Lung Ningle, Hu Mainyang, Xiao Mei Bailey Ningbing, and the other women, as well as Chen Nan Pan Long Du Jing Lan Feng Chen Ling, and the other brothers and sisters from the ancient chaos Great Thousand World, as well as Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and the other brothers and sisters from the great world of Xiandi, were all taken into Chen Hao's mental world. 30,000 times the space-time law, endless Tao law, thick immortal qi and vitality. To everyone, it was absolutely a cultivation holy land that they couldn't even dream of. However, Chen Hao from the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland had given them such a cultivation environment. In the end, Chen Hao even took Ruolan and Ruoxian into it. As for Ruolan and Ruoxian, Chen Hao naturally knew that Ruolan didn't hide her thoughts, and the two of them had indeed helped him a lot. However, Chen Hao, who had begun to inherit the absolute arts and awaken the state of mind, discovered the two's abnormalities when he took them into his mental world. This was something that Chen Hao couldn't discover before, even with his eyes of fire and gold. But now he could see through the two women at a glance. Under such circumstances, when Chen Hao invited the two into his mental world, he hesitated slightly. But in the end he chose to trust the two, especially Ruoxian's clear and resolute eyes. Phew! After settling everyone, Chen Hao let out a long sigh. All settled. Even if the Celestial River King goes crazy, I can still escape without any worries. In my great world, their cultivation bases will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. After this competition, I will step into the Hongmeng domain and advance to the supreme godhead of Hongmeng. With the Empyrean godhead space shielding me, I believe that even the Hongmeng domain won't be able to sense my mental world. Master, don't forget that you still have me. Naturally, there won't be any problems. Now Master only needs to step into the supreme godhead of Hongmeng, and you will soar to the sky. The old god's voice sounded. Chapter 1455. Is that so? I don't think so. Chen Hao shrugged. Tell me, when will I be able to control that thing? Master, it's not that I don't want to let you control it, but it's restricted by your realm. I can't do anything about it. Then what realm do I have to reach to be able to control it? Chen Hao asked. Chen Hao was getting more and more curious about the existence in his mind, especially after experiencing Shi Chao and Gu Xian. Chen Hao could feel how powerful it was. Because the thing that could suppress Shi Chao and Gu Xian's godhead wasn't Chen Hao's godhead, but the mysterious thing guarded by the old god. In fact, even though Chen Hao had started to awaken the memories of the inheritance, and concluded that he was the reincarnation of an expert, he still hadn't discovered the existence of his own godhead. This was strange. After all, the inheritance of the inheritance should come from the godhead. Even if Chen Hao hadn't awakened his memories, it should be the same. However, Chen Hao really couldn't capture the slightest bit of his own godhead's aura. This. Motherfucker, don't be fooled by this and that. Cough cough. Master, I originally thought that the Grand Mist Sovereign Realm would be enough. However, after you obtained Gu Xian's heavenly venerable godhead, it seems to have undergone some changes. As for when Master will be able to control it, I really can't be sure. You mean it will change as I mutate? Growth-type magic treasure? Yes, Master. Chen Hao shook his head and didn't continue. He directly blended into his room. The Yang God has reached the Great Circle. It's time for the Yin God. Ever since I went to the Emperor Star Secret Realm, I haven't been to the Immortal Realm. There are still 2 days left. I can go take a look. Chen Hao sat down cross-legged and muttered to himself. Regarding the Immortal Realm, Chen Hao was looking forward to controlling it the most. Yang Luyan. Up until now, based on the information that Chen Hao had gathered from everyone, it was only that he had met the special Yang Luyan. Others only had contact with the formulaic system. Perhaps her body contains an even greater secret. A secret that surpasses the immortal emperor, ancient chaos, and earth. Then only the immortal realm? Chen Hao thought to himself. Unfortunately, he couldn't get an answer for now. Letting out a long sigh, Chen Hao activated the Soul Realm helmet. Wang. Chen Hao once again felt that his soul had completely left his body and entered the space of the immortal realm. As his soul drifted in a hazy and dazed manner, he heard heavenly music that sounded like the sound of nature. At the same time, a pleasant voice once again floated into Chen Hao's ears. You haven't appeared for over 30,000 years. I thought you wouldn't come. This pleasant voice was filled with human emotions. Naturally, it was Yang Luyan and not the system. The space-time laws of the immortal world were 100 times more powerful than the great world of Xiandi. Chen Hao had been in the Emperor Star Secret Realm for over 300 years, which was equivalent to 30,000 years in the immortal world. How can that be? If I don't come, how can I step onto the path of the immortal emperor? Chen Hao replied. You've awakened a bit of the Yin spirit. Yang Luyan continued. Again, only her voice could be heard. You've also fused with 2 godheads, one of which is at the heavenly venerable level. Very powerful. A fused soul is indeed powerful. However, in the broadcast of the immortal world, I saw many ultimate techniques that shouldn't have appeared on you. You're only Daoyuo Jingxian, yet you can do it. This must be the beginning. Yang Luyan suddenly stopped. The beginning of what? Of course the awakening. What I mean is, the awakening of what? Chen Hao asked expectantly. He felt that Yang Luyan might not understand him as well as she did. I'm not telling you. As your cultivation level and strength increase, you'll naturally know. Yang Luyan said. I say, fellow townsmen, Are you the real person? Of course I'm the real person. Does the system have such rich emotions like me? So many words. I already know the question you asked last time, but I still can't tell you. This is the rule. However, I can tell you that the three of them are safe and together. They even watched your competition together in the immortal world. They are very happy, Yang Luyan said. Chen Hao, in the future, don't call me fellow townsman. It's so unpleasant. Just call me by my name. Okay. Yan Yan, can you do it? I've refined the heavenly venerable Godhead and have the ability to travel through space. Can you tell me the route back to Earth? Chen Hao asked. Chen Hao didn't care about Yang Luoyan's identity as the controller of the immortal world, and affectionately called her Yan Yan. Firstly, he wanted to get closer to her. Secondly, Chen Hao felt that Yang Luoyan's tone and attitude didn't have the slightest trace of the power of a controller. You really want to go back. The heavenly venerable Godhead's ability to travel through space is very limited. Moreover, it is restricted by your own realm. Even if you know the route, it will take you millions of years to return to Earth. Yang Luyan actually didn't have any objections to Chen Hao's way of calling her. Millions of years? Chen Hao said in surprise. This is under the condition that there are no accidents. Therefore, you'd better put away this thought and honestly advance to the immortal emperor realm. When you step into the immortal world, it will be easy to return to Earth. In the countless boundless worlds, countless spirits of all living things should have awakened. The sealed immortal world gate should have loosened. It is no longer impossible for you to advance to the immortal emperor realm. Chen Hao was speechless. Yang Luoyan's words had undoubtedly erased Chen Hao's idea of trying to return to Earth after stepping into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. Although millions of years wasn't considered a long time for a true immortal king realm expert, or even a Dao-severing true immortal realm expert, Chen Hao, who had only lived for several tens of thousands of years, felt that it was a little too long. He was completely unable to accept it. There is one more thing to remind you. The Devil Dao and Divine Dao are the same as the Immortal Dao. They have also begun to awaken. Similarly, there are countless almighty reincarnators with Devil and Divine Seals awakening. All order and rules are ineffective against them. Devil Dao, Divine Dao, Chen Hao said with a slight frown. From the memories of Shi Chao and Gu Xian's godheads, Chen Hao already understood that the so-called Devil Dao and Divine Dao were fundamentally not too different from the Immortal Dao. To be precise, the Immortal Dao contained the Devil Dao and Divine Dao. The Devil Dao was the extreme Yang God Dao, while the Divine Dao was the extreme Yin God Dao. Both had broken the shackles of Yin and Yang, and existed independently. As for the Immortal Dao, it was still the coexistence of Yin and Yang. The fundamental reason for the Great War of the Three Realms back then was the struggle for control of the immortal world. The gods and demons joined forces to contend against the immortals. In the end, both sides suffered great losses. It's useless no matter how much you think about it. Increasing your strength is the key. In the great world of CND, you have already reached the great perfection of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. Yang Luyan said. Since you have already awakened a little of your Yin God, you should quickly cultivate and increase your strength. It's not difficult for you to achieve the balance of Yin and Yang. There are still 2 more days before the top 10 competition, right? You can still cultivate here for more than 200 days. Chapter 1456. Yang Luyan was obviously aware of Chen Hao's every move in the great world of CND. Chen Hao was not surprised by this. Since the immortal world space had broadcasted the competition of the great world of CND, Chen Hao, who had been in the limelight during the competition, naturally could not escape the eyes of Yang Luyan, the controller of the immortal world space. Okay. Buzz. 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 After Chen Hao responded, a bright immortal light suddenly enveloped him. Immediately after, Chen Hao clearly felt that the space-time was constantly distorted and his aura was rapidly changing. However, unlike before, Chen Hao, who had awakened a little of his Yin spirit, had a new understanding. At this moment he was not a physical body condensed from his soul, but a Yin spirit. He was the real him. After a full 10 minutes, the void split open and Chen Hao came out of the great thousand world contained in earth. he began to cultivate without any distractions. In the depths of the chaotic space, terrifying fluctuations of Tao laws pervaded the air. Even with the seal of the restriction, it could not completely conceal the terrifying aura that came from it. The spiritual altar between the Star River King's eyebrows and his hands were constantly condensing mysterious runes, which were then injected into the body of the Star River King that was suspended above Xiao Jiutian's head. This body's aura was getting closer and closer to Xiao Jiutian. Moreover, as the aura got closer, the distance between Xiao Jiutian and the body was also getting closer. When their auras were exactly the same, it was time for them to merge into one. The Star River King was a half-step immortal emperor. Although he only had one life and had to seal roughly the same aura as Xiao Jiutian, he was still a half-step immortal emperor after all. After the fusion, whether it was his physical strength, soul power, divine ability, supreme technique, heavenly Tao law, or state of mind, they would all belong to him. There was no doubt that Xiao Jiutian's strength would skyrocket by several times. Time passed by minute. When there were 2 hours left before the start of the top 10 ranking competition, the Star River King's life and Xiao Jiutian's life finally overlapped and merged into one. Roar! Xiao Jiutian, or to be exact, the avatar of the Star River King, suddenly roared at the sky. The roar was like rolling thunder, making the already terrifying energy storm even more terrifying. How is it? What great power! Ancestor, I feel that my absolute power has increased by 3 times, and my combat strength has definitely increased by 5 times. Hehe, this is just what you feel. When I was in control, a 10-fold increase in battle prowess was just the beginning. Your soul couldn't feel the increase in state of mind, well, heavenly Tao laws and divine abilities. That's the main point. 10 times is still just the starting point. Xiao Jiutian was extremely shocked. Although he had long known that the old ancestor would have a shocking increase in strength after fusing with him, he did not expect the increase to be so shocking. Well, I'll seal your soul first. For the time being, you'll lose all perception of the outside world. However, you'll be able to sense all of my aura. This is a rare opportunity for you. Don't let me down. Yes, ancestor. Many thanks, old ancestor. Xiao Jiutian said excitedly. The Star River King had not annihilated his soul until now. In his opinion, the Star River King must really like him as a junior, and really wanted to nurture him. Being able to fuse with the old ancestor's soul, and feel the old ancestor's true aura and battle prowess would undoubtedly open a door for him to peek into half-step immortal emperor divine abilities and heavenly Tao laws. How could he not be excited? The Star River King directly took Xiao Jiutian, who had fused with his life, into his mind's great world. So what if I've awakened the spirit of all things? I've fused with the 9 heavens. Although I've been bound to the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, I'll be the one fighting. Except for absolute power, everything else will be at the half-step immortal emperor level. Godhead I'll get all of them. The great world of Xiandi, the first one to step into the immortal emperor realm must be me, Xiaoxinghe. The only one who can control the great world of Xiandi is me. The Star River King thought to himself. At the same time, he turned into a stream of light, and quickly flew toward the great world of Xiandi. Let's welcome the top 10 contestants of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland to their seats. The great world of Xiandi Deerchaser Peak. The long-awaited top 10 competition had finally arrived. The host stepped onto the huge arena at the center of the martial arts field and announced loudly, "Qi." A stream of light streaked across the sky as Su Junfeng, one of the top 10 contestants, flew toward the arena. His aura was released without restraint. What a powerful aura. Is this his true aura? It's not strange for him to have such a powerful aura to be able to injure Buchun. He's also recognized as the spirit of all beings. Although he might not be as strong as Gu Xian, he's not much weaker. Su Junfeng had directly challenged Buchun when he was fighting for a spot in the top 10. His strength was unfathomable. At this moment, his confident expression and the aura he was releasing had undoubtedly made the crowd look forward to his next match. Su Junfeng, do your best. I'll support you. Su Junfeng. Su Junfeng. Even though Su Junfeng did not belong to any faction, his powerful strength still won him the support of many admirers. Qi, qi, qi. Shortly after, Song Longyuan, Tang Haotian, Zhan Yuanzhao, and Wei Wufa came out one after another. Song Longyuan and Tang Haotian's battle intent surged as they looked at the world with disdain. They didn't seem to care about Su Juanfeng's powerful aura. When they landed on the top 10 contestant seats, they looked at Su Junfeng with confidence. On the other hand, Zhan Yuanzhao and Wei Wufa, who had been Gu Xian's lackeys for a while, had grave and worried expressions on their faces. It was obvious that they were under a lot of pressure. This was especially so when they heard the crowd's discussion about the two of them. They cursed Gu Xian's 18 generations of ancestors for hugging the wrong leg. These two are also the spirits of all beings. They don't have any backbone at all. I think they're just trash at the bottom. Yeah, I'm sure that when it's their turn to fight Li Yuan, they'll definitely admit defeat. Otherwise, they won't even know how they died. Serves them right. I despise servile people like them the most. Spirits of all beings? I really don't know how they became immortal emperors before they reincarnated. It's simply an insult to the immortal emperors. I know a little about this. According to the records of our academy, the immortal emperors of the immortal world are not much different from the Daluo Jingxian of the great world of Xiandi. As long as they're not idiots, they can become immortal emperors. I guess they're the natives of the immortal world, and the worst kind of trash. These words made Zhan Yuanzhao and Wei Wufa's faces turn red. This was the truth. In the Great Thousand World, even the strongest immortal emperor in the Great Thousand World of ancient chaos, wanting to become immortal emperors was harder than ascending to the heavens. However, the natives of the immortal world had a unique advantage. Chapter 1457. The residents of the immortal world were born with innate conditions that were billions of times better than the cultivators of the Great Thousand World. Coupled with the unique cultivation illusion, the difficulty of stepping into the immortal emperor realm was not much different from the cultivators of the great world of Xiandi stepping into the Daluo Golden Wonderland. In short, the Great Thousand World and the immortal world were on completely different levels, just like the mortal world and the cultivation world. However, it must be mentioned that the cultivators who had stepped into the immortal emperor realm from the Great Thousand World were much stronger than the ordinary immortal emperors in the immortal world. They also had more room for growth. This was because the hardships they had experienced had forged a stronger state of mind and will. These 2 points would become more and more important as their cultivation level increased. Xiao Jiutian is here. Xiao Jiutian. Xiao Jiutian. The moment Xiao Jiutian came from the sky, all the cultivators in the training ground were attracted to him. He was originally one of the most popular contestants to win this year's ranking competition, and was on par with Chen Tianhe. However, due to the rise of Li Yuan, he was overshadowed. Even so, he still had countless supporters. Before the results of the competition were out, anything was possible. After all, he was the #1 Grand Luo of the Xiao clan of the Star River King. Most people did not notice any changes in Xiao Jiutian. In fact, cultivators who had reached the great perfection of the Daluo Golden Wonderland could not improve much apart from breaking through their cultivation level in a short period of time. However, the top experts on the rostrum and from the various academies were slightly surprised when they saw Xiao Jiutian. Although Xiao Jiutian's aura did not change much compared to 3 days ago, these experts with powerful perception could clearly sense the subtle changes in Xiao Jiutian's essence, qi, and spirit. Amazing! Both his physical body and state of mind seem to have improved tremendously. It seems that the Star River King has put in a lot of effort for Xiao Jiutian in the past 3 days. Many top experts thought to themselves. However, no one doubted that the current Xiao Jiutian was no longer the real Xiao Jiutian. There was no other way. Firstly, no one expected the Star River King to be so ruthless. Secondly, Xiao Jiutian was a direct descendant of the Star River King, and was the genius who had awakened the most profound heavens of the Star River King's inheritance. With the Celestial River King's life integrated into it, no one could sense any abnormalities. Yeah, it looks like the Celestial River King still values this first place. Of course. The number of times that the Celestial River King's Xiao clan did not rank first could be counted on one's fingers. As the number one clan and the number one power, it's very shameful if you don't get first place. If that's the case, I'm not sure if Dahua Li Yuan can get first place. Amidst the cheers and discussions of countless people, Xiao Jiutian had a faint smile on his face as he confidently landed on the top 10 contestant seats. Immediately, to everyone's surprise, Xiao Jiutian actually looked at Su Junfeng and the others and provoked them without the slightest hesitation. So what if you're the wisest of all things? First place can only belong to me, Xiao Jiutian. Those who stand in my way shall die. Crash. The crowd burst into an uproar. One had to know that Xiao Jiutian had been famous for a long time. Such a high-profile provocation was not the Xiao Jiutian that everyone knew. But now Xiao Jiutian, who had always been cultured and refined and was admired by his peers, was acting out of character. Your aura is indeed not bad. Unfortunately, apart from Li Yuan, there's no one else among you who can enter my eyes. Su Junfeng smiled faintly and said proudly. Shameless boasting. First place, no one can take it away from me, Song Longyuan. A terrifying battle intent suddenly bloomed from Song Longyuan's body. He was tall and sturdy, but at this moment he gave people an unshakable feeling. It seems that I have underestimated you. Not bad, this is interesting. Su Junfeng was slightly surprised, but immediately his eyes became slightly excited. Tang Haotian frowned slightly, and his expression became more dignified. Zhang Yuanzhao and Wei Wufa looked at Song Longyuan with astonishment and murmured, Heavenly Dragon Qi. It's actually the Heavenly Dragon Qi. Could this Song Longyuan be the reincarnation of a heavenly dragon? The Heavenly Dragon Clan had an extremely high status in the immortal world, just like the Dragon Clan's status in the great world of Xiandi. Even the Heavenly Venerables in charge of the immortal world dared not offend the Heavenly Dragon Clan. And at this moment, Song Longyuan actually released a faint Heavenly Dragon Qi. The top 10 had not yet arrived, but they were already at daggers drawn. Moreover, it overturned everyone's thoughts again, and the situation became difficult to judge again, making everyone sigh. The spirits of all living things were indeed existences that could not be underestimated. Before the real battle, no one could make a conclusion, because their hidden strength was not something that could be discovered by everyone. Qi. At this moment, Chen Hao took the lead, followed by Miao Xian, Qin Yang, and Ning Jing of the Jade Maiden Palace, almost at the same time. They obviously came together. However, everyone was not too surprised. After all, basically everyone knew their relationship. The core was Li Yuan the Great. Li Yuan and Miao Xian's relationship was already known to the world. Qin Yang was Miao Xian's senior brother, and had been resurrected by Li Yuan the Great and obtained a second life. Li Yuan's other companion, Si Xian, had joined King Ying's Jade Maiden Palace and was accepted as a prodisciple. Ning Jing was the first Daoyuo Jingxian of the Jade Maiden Palace. Therefore, it was reasonable for the four of them to appear together. Li Yuan, Qin Yang, Miao Xian, Qin Yang, Miao Xian, Ning Jing. At this moment, countless cultivators burst into cheers that resounded through the world. Because the four of them appeared at the same time, the cheers were several times louder than when Xiao Jiutian appeared. This was not something that could be compared to when the members of the Three Nothingness appeared. The most resounding name was undoubtedly Chen Hao's name in the University of Dahua, Li Yuan. After devouring and fusing with Chen Tianhe and defeating the reincarnated Heavenly Venerate Gu Xian, Chen Hao's combat strength had risen to an unparalleled height. Before Xiao Jiutian and the others appeared, Chen Hao was definitely number one. This was the consensus of almost everyone. Even Xiao Jiutian, who was the most popular candidate to win the championship, was completely overshadowed by Chen Hao. However, the aura that Xiao Jiutian, Su Junfeng, and Song Longyuan released, as well as their confident words, made everyone uncertain again. Li Yuan, who was once a fatty, was now a handsome guy. He slowly landed on the top 10 contestant seats. His handsome face was calm and cold. His dark and deep eyes were calm. It was as if the upcoming top 10 ranking competition was not in his eyes at all. He exuded a kind of arrogance from his bones. If it was in the past, many cultivators might have scoffed and disdained him. But now no one thought so. He had the capital to be arrogant. He was already standing at the peak of the same realm. Chapter 1458. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Although Zhan Yuanzhao and Wei Wufa were reincarnated spirits of all living beings, their gazes towards Chunhao were filled with fear and worry. Chunhao, who could suppress the godhead of an Empyrean, was an unimaginable existence in their hearts. Immortal Qi. However, when everyone's attention shifted from Li Yuan, who was the most dazzling, to Miao Xian, Ningjing, and Qin Yang, they were even more shocked to find that not only did Qin Yang, who had been revived by Li Yuan, possess immortal energy, Miao Xian and Ningjing's bodies naturally emitted a faint wave of immortal energy, causing their auras to become more ethereal and agile. Similarly, Miao Xian, Ningjing, and Qin Yang's auras were much stronger than 3 days ago. It was just that they were not as shocking as Xiao Jiutian's. At this point, the top 10 contestants were all present. This year's Daoyuo Golden Wonderland's top 10 is undoubtedly the strongest in history. It's hard to say who's going to get first place. Yes, but the top 4 should be Li Yuan, Xiao Jiutian, Song Longyuan, and Su Junfeng. As for who will take first place, I still favor Li Yuan. Li Yuan's battle with the reincarnated heavenly venerable Gu Xian did indeed display heaven-defying strength. However, Xiao Jiutian, Su Junfeng, and Song Longyuan still acted as if victory was within their grasp despite knowing Li Yuan's situation. I feel that they are not speaking without thinking. Therefore, I feel that the possibility of Li Yuan winning is not high. After all, he should have been completely exposed. That's true, what you said makes sense. Let's see who will be the final winner. Amidst the discussion, the host announced the top 10 contestants to draw lots to determine the order of the first round. Xiao Jiutian was the first to soar into the air. His domineering aura stirred up a strong wind that even disturbed the Yin spirit. Dust billowed towards Chunhao and the other top 10 contestants. Moreover, he seemed to take special care of Chunhao. It would be fine if Chunhao and the rest did not awaken their Yin spirit. However, whether it was Qin Yang, Miao Xian, Song Longyuan, or the 5 reincarnated spirits of all living things, all of them had awakened their Yin spirits. How could they not feel Xiao Jiutian's provocation? How dare you show off your insignificant skills? Boom. Song Longyuan and Su Junfeng both snorted coldly as they disdained Xiao Jiutian's actions. They soared into the sky and flew towards the arena. Chunhao glanced at Xiao Jiutian and frowned slightly. Although his fiery golden eyes did not appear, 2 rays of golden light flashed in the depths of his pitch-black eyes. However, Chunhao did not hesitate too much. He also waved his hand to disperse the strong wind that interfered with the Yin spirit, and flew towards the arena. Provocation. Moreover, it was a deliberate provocation. If it was the previous Chunhao, naturally, he wouldn't be able to discover anything. Unfortunately, the Chunhao of today, although he hadn't fully awakened, he was still incomparable to the Chunhao of yesterday. It should be known that even the Luo Ing King's divination couldn't escape his senses. What kind of ability was this? Chunhao slowly landed on the arena. A trace of anger appeared on his calm expression as he glared at Xiao Jiutian. What? You're not convinced? Xiao Jiutian seized the opportunity to escalate his provocation. Without a doubt, Chunhao's reaction was exactly what he wanted. Moreover, when he saw Chunhao's reaction, a natural sense of superiority was born in the depths of his heart. Young people were young people after all. With just a little bit of scheming, he could infuriate Chunhao and easily toy with him. Unfortunately, Xiao Jiutian, or the Celestial River King's clone, didn't know that Chunhao was deliberately satisfying him. Since you are a direct descendant of the Celestial River King, I will be merciful. Chunhao said arrogantly. Merciful? I have to say that you think too highly of yourself. No one can be merciful when facing me. The first place belongs to me, Xiao Jiutian. Those who block me die. You'd better admit defeat. Since you are half a disciple of my ancestor, Perhaps you will still be a direct disciple in the future. Ridiculous. Chen Hao shook his head and said disdainfully, "Since you say so, then let's fight unscrupulously. Don't cry when the time comes." "Only you will cry," Xiao Jiutian said coldly with high fighting spirit. "You think too highly of yourselves." "Yes. Do you really think that the first place belongs to the two of them? Humph, in my eyes, they are nothing. Song Longyuan, let's have a fair fight. In the future, I hope there won't be too much involvement." "Of course. Don't worry, I can guess a thing or two about your origin. This is just a competition." During the drawing of lots, under the deliberate efforts of Xiao Jiutian and Chen Hao, the hostile atmosphere became even more intense. Soon the results of the drawing of lots came out. "Why are you first?" Miao Xian frowned when she saw the lot in Chen Hao's hand. "Like the battle in the Emperor Star Secret Realm?" Chen Hao said directly in Miao Xian's mind with the corner of his mouth slightly raised. Whether they were willing or not, they had already reached a very high level of yin and yang fusion, and their hearts were connected. "Shameless," Miao Xian said with a red face. "Wasn't the first battle in the Emperor Star Secret Realm a fusion of yin and yang?" At this moment, the host announced, "The first round, Ning Jing against Song Longyuan. The second round, Su Junfeng against Qing Yang. The third round, Miao Xian against Li Yuan. The fourth round, Zhan Yuanzhao against Tang Haotian. The fifth round, Xiao Jiutian against Wei Wufa." For the first round, Ning Jing and Song Longyuan, please stay and start the competition. The rest of the contestants, please get ready. Ning Jing, be careful. Miao Xian reminded Ning Jing when she left the arena. "Okay." Ning Jing nodded. As the #1 Grand Heavenly Realm of the Jade Maiden Palace, Ning Jing was one of the popular contenders for the individual championship before the start of this year's school ranking competition. She wasn't much inferior to Chen Tianhe and Xiao Jiutian. However, the appearance of the powerful spirits of all creation took away much of Ning Jing's glory. Just like now, no one was optimistic about Ning Jing's chances against Song Longyuan. "Ning Jing, right? You have a very good talent and physique. You are barely qualified to be my concubine." Song Longyuan stood with his hands behind his back and stared at Ning Jing on the other side of the arena. He said proudly, "If you admit defeat now, consider my words carefully. This might be the greatest opportunity in your life. If you miss it, you won't have another chance." Chi. Ning Jing was just like her name. Facing Song Longyuan's seemingly arrogant words, her expression didn't change at all. She directly struck out with her palm. A crystal-clear jade hand instantly became the core of heaven and earth. Endless immortal light and thousands of Tao laws tore through the void and connected yin and yang. It was born from Ning Jing's palm. At this moment, countless cultivators, including the experts on the rostrum and even Ning Jing's master, King Ying, widened their eyes in shock. Chapter 1459. Once an expert made a move, one would know whether or not he was skilled. When Ning Jing unleashed this palm strike, everyone felt their minds being shaken. Even those at the true immortal king realm were no exception. Naturally, they didn't say that this palm strike could threaten true immortal kings. It was just that the profoundness contained within this palm strike was undoubtedly a secret art that surpassed their understanding. Even King Ying did not know when his disciple had learned such a shocking divine skill. However, almost instantly, King Ying's gaze turned to Chen Hao, who was in the top 10. "It's Chen Hao." King Ying, who knew his disciple the best, could not think of where Ning Jing could have learned such a powerful divine skill from other than Chen Hao. Moreover, in the past 3 days, which was more than 200 years in the 30,000 times space-time, it was indeed enough for Ning Jing to cultivate a divine skill. Daoyuo Crystal Jade Palm? Unlike the cultivators in the vast thousand world, the awakened spirits of all living beings, including Song Longyuan, exclaimed in shock. At this moment, Song Longyuan, who was standing proudly and did not seem to take Ning Jing seriously, had a serious expression on his face. The aura around him surged crazily, and at the same time, he retreated at an alarming speed. Obviously, Ning Jing's palm had caused him to lose his composure and become nervous. "It's the Daoyuo Crystal Jade Palm." This is Luo Shang's divine skill. It contains the most powerful Luo Tian Dao, and its power is limitless. In the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, it can unleash the strongest combat power. How could Ningjing know it? How could she have learned it? She can't be the reincarnation of Luo Shang. How could she know his divine skill? This is unbelievable. Wei Wufa, Zhan Yuanzhao, Tang Haotian, and some of the awakened spirits of all living beings were shocked. Luo Shang was one of the most famous celestial lords in the immortal world, and the Daoyuo crystal jade palm was his divine skill. It could be said that everyone in the immortal world knew about it. Bang! Rumble! Rumble! Even though Tsang Longyuan reacted in time, he was still a step too slow due to his carelessness and underestimation of his opponent. He lost the initiative and was unable to avoid Tranquility's Daoyuo crystal jade palm. They clashed hastily, and after the muffled collision, a terrifying energy explosion occurred. Roar! Tsang Longyuan, who had been injured in one move, roared in anger in the midst of the devastating and terrifying energy explosion. Blood spurted out from his mouth as a terrifying aura suddenly erupted. In an instant, a black shadow spread out and covered the sky in an instant. True form of the Heavenly Dragon. Tsang Longyuan is indeed from the Heavenly Dragon clan. What a powerful origin phase. Even if this is not the level of an Empyrean, it is still infinitely close to an Empyrean. The Heavenly Dragon race is close to an Empyrean. That is an existence that is even stronger than an ordinary Empyrean. The spirits of all beings cried out in alarm. Good, very good. Ever since I, Tsang Longyuan, woke up, no one has ever hurt me. You, Ningjing, are the first. Die. The terrifying heavenly dragon's might swept through the world. Not to mention Ningjing in the arena, even the cultivators outside the arena were shocked. That was a kind of pressure that surpassed everyone's knowledge. No ferocious beast's aura could compare to it. Ningjing's expression was solemn. At this moment, her gaze towards Tsang Longyuan finally changed. However, she was shocked to discover that it was difficult for her to even move or speak. Heavenly Dragon's Might. This was Tsang Longyuan's Heavenly Dragon's Might. It was more terrifying than the average Heavenly Venerable Godhead. Without a doubt, Gu Xian's Heavenly Venerable Godhead was incomparable to Tsang Longyuan's. Ningjing was terrified. This was something she had never imagined. Even though she had seen Gu Xian and Chen Hao's battle, and had used their Heavenly Venerable Godhead's might, she did not think she could not withstand it. But now, she realized that her current state of mind was not something she could withstand. She could clearly feel death approaching, but she was powerless to do anything. She couldn't even admit defeat. At this moment, she was filled with regret. She regretted not listening to a certain someone's reminder. Tsang Longyuan's true form of the Heavenly Dragon opened its huge mouth and breathed out a silver dragon breath at Ningjing. The silver dragon breath gradually enlarged in Ningjing's eyes. Others might not know, but Tsang Longyuan knew very well that Ningjing, at this moment, was waiting for death. What did he have to fear from someone who was not the wisest of all living beings? Whether it was Ningjing or Xiaojiotian, he did not put them in his eyes. This moment was the best proof. His real opponents were probably Li Yuan, who had defeated Gu Xian, and Su Junfeng, who he had yet to see through. Admit defeat. Just as Tsang Longyuan's dragon breath was about to reach Ningjing's body, Chen Hao's voice suddenly appeared in Ningjing's mind. At this moment, Ningjing, who was desperately struggling to break free from the nightmarish pressure, suddenly felt the immortal qi in her body shake, making her feel relaxed. Ah, she screamed. At the same time, she did as Chen Hao said without hesitation. I admit defeat. Boom. Following Ningjing's words, the MC in charge of the competition activated Ningjing's token's protective light. Ningjing gasped for air. Her full breasts were heaving up and down. Her face turned pale in an instant and blood trickled down from the corner of her mouth. Seeing this scene, the cultivators who thought Ningjing might have a chance to defeat Tsang Longyuan were all shocked. Pressure, just pressure alone made Ningjing admit defeat. The attack did not even reach her, but Ningjing, who was being protected, vomited blood and looked seriously injured. She was extremely weak. Just how strong was the Tsang Long? Countless people stared at the true form of the heavenly dragon that covered the sky, speechless. However, what the crowd did not know was that Song Longyuan was also slightly surprised at this moment. He just could not say it out loud. He was surprised that Ning Jing was clearly stunned by his heavenly dragon's pressure. How could she break through at the last moment? Even if it contained immortal qi, it should not be. After all, he had already stunned Ning Jing, which naturally included everything about her. At least you know what's good for you. Consider yourself lucky. Song Longyuan stared at Ning Jing, who was being protected by the token, and retracted his true form of the heavenly dragon. He returned to his human form and said proudly, the rules of the competition were to stop when it was necessary. Therefore, he naturally could not point out that he wanted to kill Ning Jing. Ning Jing clenched her teeth. Under the feedback of energy, she directly returned to the contestants' seats. She looked ashamed. She transmitted her voice to Chen Hao. You are right. Sorry, thank you. Chen Hao, who had a cold expression, did not even reply to Ning Jing. The second round, Su Junfeng against Qin Yang. The host did not delay and directly announced. Senior brother, if you succeed, you will succeed. If you fail, immediately admit defeat. Don't be like Ning Jing. It's very dangerous. He is right. The pressure of the divine spark is not something we can withstand. The moment Qin Yang entered the arena, Miao Xian reminded. Although Chen Hao and Ning Jing did not tell her, Miao Xian, who had telepathy, had already heard Chen Hao's inner voice. She knew that if it were not for Chen Hao's help, Ning Jing would have already died. When they came out of Chen Hao's mind world, Chen Hao had reminded them that the soul of all things, even the weakest Wei Wufa, was not something they could contend against. One move. If they could win, they would win. If they could not win, they would admit defeat. This was what Chen Hao had reminded them. Chapter 1460. It wasn't their strength or battle prowess that was lacking, but the pressure from their godheads. Although Chen Hao's godhead pressure seemed insignificant, Ning Jing, Miao Xian, and the others had also felt it when Chen Hao fought against Gu Xian. It was indeed terrifying, but seeing that Chen Hao could withstand it, they felt that they could do the same. What they didn't know was that what they felt was merely the aftermath. When they faced it in person, it was a completely different matter. Just like when Xi Chao had used his godhead pressure on the 100 disciples of the Dahua Institute. Other than Chen Hao, who else could withstand it? In fact, most of the geniuses who thought they were not much weaker than Chen Hao would think they could withstand it. It was also because of this that Ning Jing did not listen to Chen Hao's suggestion to admit defeat when she failed to defeat Song Longyuan, after executing the Daoyuo crystal jade palm that she had comprehended in Chen Hao's space. Hence, she couldn't do so even though she wanted to. If it weren't for Chen Hao, she would be dead by now. Understood. Qin Yang replied. Now that he had obtained a second life and returned to the top 10, he was even stronger than before. This was especially true after cultivating in Chen Hao's mind for over 200 years. Just like Ning Jing, he had also learned a supreme technique from the palace that was on par with the Daoyuo crystal jade palm. Of course, this was because Chen Hao had taken special care of these geniuses who had entered the top 10, including Miao Xian and Chen Nan, who had entered the top 10 in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. This was because Chen Hao knew how powerful the soul of all living beings was. Unfortunately, even though Chen Hao had spared no effort to help Qin Yang was still defeated by the powerful Su Junfeng. Moreover, Su Junfeng had not even used his godhead's pressure. The third match was between Miao Xian and Li Yuan. Everyone already knew about the relationship between these two, thus, it was not out of everyone's expectations. Miao Xian did not even enter the arena and directly admitted defeat. Miao Xian more or less sighed in her heart. Before the start of the battle, how could she have expected such a result? No matter how high her estimation of that damn fatty was, it was impossible for him to be this powerful. All this time, she had thought that he was inferior to her. However, the truth was that she was far inferior to him. The fourth match, Tang Haotian against Zhang Yuanzhao. Both of them were confirmed to be reincarnated immortal emperors. Since the beginning of the top 10 ranking competition, this was the first battle between the spirits of all living things. and it was indeed exciting beyond everyone's expectations. Regardless of whether it was close combat, the collision of powerful divine skills, or the collision of godheads, it could all be described as earth-shattering. It made the practitioners of the great world of CND feel refreshed and intoxicated as they watched. This was an evenly matched battle. In the end, Zhang Yuanzhao lost, and Tang Haotian won with a slight advantage. Only the spirits of all things against the spirits of all things is a fair battle. Miao Xian, Qin Yang, and Ning Jing were unfair to the spirits of 10,000 creatures. The pressure from the godheads was like an imperial sword hanging over their heads. It was too intimidating. As for this old man, as Chun Hao pondered in his heart, he couldn't help but look at Xiao Jiutian, who was about to enter the arena. He looks quite confident. With the state of mind and willpower of a half-step immortal emperor, perhaps the pressure from the godheads wouldn't affect him. After all, the pressure from the godheads is also limited by the spirits of all things' own realm. As if he felt Chun Hao's gaze, Xiao Jiutian turned his head slightly and looked at him provocatively. He said proudly, "I hope you won't be scared out of your wits by my strength." After he finished speaking, he flew directly into the arena. The reason why he was uncharacteristically provoking everyone was to provoke them into a bloody battle with him. That way, it would be easier for him to kill them. He wanted to obtain more godheads, the more the better. Every godhead was a type of Tao. Even if it wasn't his own Tao, it could inspire and perfect his own Tao. At the same time, in order to be the first to become an immortal emperor, it was inevitable to stop these spirits of all things. This was because he was very clear about the significance of being the first to become an immortal emperor. That was to seize the heaven's will. The first to become an immortal emperor would obtain the power to truly control the great world of CND, and integrate with the supreme heavenly law of the great world of CND. With him, the cultivators in the great world of CND would be suppressed by his heaven's will. Unless he ascended to the immortal world, no one else would be able to become an immortal emperor. This was the law that a great thousand world could only have one immortal emperor. Of course, other cultivators could also choose to become an immortal emperor in other great thousand worlds after climbing the Emperor Celestial Stairway. However, the stronger the great thousand world, the stronger the first to become an immortal emperor. This was without a doubt because it was the supreme heavenly law of the great thousand world. As far as the Star River King knew, at least for now, there was no great thousand world that was stronger than the great world of CND. Wei Wufa's expression was slightly dignified, but he was not afraid. He also soared into the sky and entered the arena. "Take out your godhead, or you will die very quickly." Xiao Jiutian stood with his hands behind his back and stared at Wei Wufa disdainfully. Although Wei Wufa was the wisest of all things, his aura was obviously the weakest among the top 10. It did not seem like he was hiding his strength. At this moment, his dignified expression was more than enough to prove this point. Since you asked for it, I will fulfill your wish." Wei Wufa was very straightforward. Or it could be said that he understood the situation and directly took out his godhead. He did not want to suffer because of his pride. Although Xiao Jiutian was not the wisest of all things reincarnated as an immortal emperor, at this moment, his powerful aura was much stronger than Ning Jing and Qin Yang. Therefore, Wei Wufa was very clear that he was no match for Xiao Jiutian with absolute strength. One had to admit that as one of the top geniuses in the great world of CND, even if Xiao Jiutian was born in the immortal world, he would definitely be an extremely rare genius. Boom! The pressure of the godhead spread out in an instant, and surged toward Xiao Jiutian. Sky Silkworm 9 transformations 9 returned to 1. Chi chi chi, Xiao Jiutian shouted softly, and his figure suddenly turned into a series of afterimages. In an instant he had completed the Sky Silkworm 9 transformations. That speed, that profound, that proficiency, it was unknown how many times stronger than Xiao Manxia. He had completed the Sky Silkworm 9 transformations, one of the Xiao family's strongest techniques, in an instant. His aura had increased by more than 10 times. Ah! What terrifying strength! This is not as simple as cultivating the Sky Silkworm 9 transformations to the highest realm. He is indeed the #1 genius of the Xiao family. Countless people exclaimed in surprise. Especially the members of the Xiao family who were familiar with Xiao Jiutian, including Xiao Manxia, were no exception. Even she did not know when Xiao Jiutian had cultivated the sky silkworm 9 transformations to such a realm. In fact, among all the spectators, except for Chen Hao, whose perception was unimaginably terrifying, no one knew that Xiao Jiutian was not the real Xiao Jiutian at this moment. Chapter 1461. Lose. Boom. Xiao Jiutian let out a loud shout, and a terrifying energy suddenly burst out. It was like a saber and a sword, and the saber and sword weaved a net, covering the sky and covering the sun. Ah! Wei Wufa screamed in horror. At this moment, he frantically activated the pressure of his godhead and raised his strength to the extreme. He faced Xiao Jiutian's attack that completely enveloped him and made it impossible for him to dodge. He did not expect this. Although Xiao Jiutian's 9 transformations of the heavenly silkworm could not enter his eyes, Xiao Jiutian had already reached the extreme of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. More importantly, Xiao Jiutian's absolute strength was much stronger than his. Moreover, Xiao Jiutian was fast. Fast. In the world of martial arts, only speed was invincible. No matter how powerful a martial art was, if it was executed too slowly, it would only be useless in a battle. Especially in a battle of life and death, it would not be of much use. On the contrary, if one's speed reached a certain level, even the simplest attack without any mystery could produce an incredible effect. Not to mention the premise of absolute strength. Wei Wufa was the reincarnation of an immortal emperor. The moment Xiao Jiutian's attack enveloped him, his pupils shrank and he was terrified. At this moment he knew that he, who had just fully awakened, would not be able to withstand this attack. He was doomed in this life. With such a clear understanding, despite his fear and reluctance, the Celestial Emperor's strong mental fortitude allowed him to make a choice at the first moment. Roar! A shrill roar burst out from Wei Wufa's mouth. Immediately, a terrifying fluctuation appeared in his essence, qi and spirit. Before the crowd could think, he exploded with a boom. Self-detonation. However, the flesh and blood that burst out did not turn into dust, nor did it scatter. Instead, it blasted toward Xiao Jiutian. So ruthless. Countless people exclaimed in shock. Watch out! The Xiao family and Xiao Jiutian's supporters were even more shocked at this moment. Their eyes widened as they shouted toward the arena. No one expected that the reincarnation of the Celestial Emperor, Wei Wufa, would decisively self-detonate before the outcome of the battle was decided. Even if he was restricted by his realm, he was still the reincarnation of the Celestial Emperor. Both his body and soul had extremely terrifying power sealed within them. These powers should have been unsealed as his realm increased, but now, they had completely self-detonated. Quick! Seal for me. Qi. Qi. The terrifying fluctuations made the experts on the rostrum, especially the Celestial River King, unable to remain calm. At his command, countless experts of the true Immortal King realm responded and attacked. Even King Ying, Chen Taishu, and King Luoying were no exception. It was not that they listened to King Xinghe's words, but rather, it was because of the terrifying fluctuations. If they allowed it to explode, the seal of the arena would not be able to stop it at all. On the deer-chasing peak, especially the young cultivators near the front, they would probably be reduced to ashes. Rumble. In the end, the terrifying explosion still spread out. Even though many true immortal kings had already taken action, it was a pity that they were too hasty and couldn't completely seal it. The seal of the arena was torn apart, and the terrifying energy turbulence caused the entire Zhilu Peak to fall into chaos. Some of the weaker and slower young disciples of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland were directly turned into ashes by the energy turbulence. Qi. A golden stream of light suddenly shot into the sky from the arena at an astonishing speed. Where do you think you're going? The Celestial River King gave out an angry roar and chased after him with a qi sound. Godhood. That's Wei Wufa's godhead. Suddenly, many people understood what was going on. Wei Wufa had obviously detonated himself in exchange for the godhead's escape. No one had expected such a turn of events. Hiss. While everyone was staring at the void and watching King Xinghe chase after Wei Wufa's godhead, no one noticed that Chen Hao, who was sitting in the top 10, trembled slightly. His pitch-black eyes had completely lost their color in 2 breaths of time, like a puppet that had lost its soul. But in just 2 breaths of time he returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. But seeing that he was about to catch up with Wei Wufa's godhead, the celestial river king who had obtained his first godhead was stunned. The golden godhead seemed to have penetrated the 9 heavens and 10 earths in an instant, and disappeared without a trace. Not even the slightest aura could be detected. How is this possible? How is this possible? The celestial river king's face was extremely ugly, unable to accept such a reality. Originally, he thought that by integrating his life into Xiao Jiutian's soul palace and controlling Xiao Jiutian, he could easily obtain the godheads of all the spirits of all things in the top 10. No one would be his opponent. Of course, the premise was that no one chose to admit defeat. But now in his first battle, and against the weakest spirit of all things, he had suffered a double loss. Xiao Jiutian turned into ashes. Yes, the self-detonation of a fully awakened spirit of all things, targeting Xiao Jiutian alone in the narrow space of the arena. How could Xiao Jiutian resist it? There was no suspense at all. Xiao Jiutian turned into ashes, including the Celestial River King's life. The Celestial River King, who knew that there was no turning back, thought that obtaining Wei Wufa's godhead was more or less a comfort, at least enough to make up for the loss of his life. But now the godhead was gone. Moreover, it was impossible to obtain another godhead in the top 10 ranking competition, because Xiao Jiutian was dead. Looking up at the endless void, the Celestial River King's expression became extremely ferocious and terrifying after a short moment of sluggishness. For many years, ever since Queen Ying lost her primordial Yin body, he had never been as angry as he was today. But as the strongest person in the great world of CND, he could not burst out unscrupulously at this time. All of this stemmed from his wrong estimation of the strength of the spirits of all things. He underestimated them. The reason why he underestimated them was because Chen Hao seemed to have no difficulty in killing the spirits of all things and suppressing the godheads, at least in the eyes of a half-step immortal emperor like him. But now he understood that it was Chen Hao who was relaxed. The strength of the spirits of all things was not something that the geniuses of the Great Thousand World could contend with. Even if he was a half-step immortal emperor and sealed in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, he could not do so. The only explanation was that, as previously speculated, Chen Hao himself was a more powerful spirit of all things. That was why he was so relaxed. Xiao Jiutian is dead, his body and soul are destroyed. Wei Wufa is also dead, but Wei Wufa's godhead escaped. He just died in this life. The reincarnation of an immortal emperor is indeed the reincarnation of an immortal emperor. Indeed, we mortals cannot contend with him, no matter how talented we are. What a pity. Countless people felt sorry for Xiao Jiutian. Chapter 1462. Xiao Jiutian's arrogant look was still fresh in their minds, but now it had turned into nothingness. This was the top genius of the great world of CND, yet he died just like that. Anyone would feel that it was a pity, let alone the Xiao clan. Resurrection. If Li Yuan can resurrect Qin Yang, he can naturally resurrect Xiao Jiutian. Don't joke around. If he could resurrect, would the Celestial River King's face be so ugly? Without the Hongmeng Qi shield, Xiao Jiutian's aura, flesh, and blood were mostly devoured by Wei Wufa's godhead. How could there be anything left? Indeed, this was completely different from Qin Yang's situation. Whether Chen Hao helped or not, even if he did, he could not resurrect Xiao Jiutian. Similarly, even if Xiao Jiutian's aura was not devoured and dissipated, Chen Hao could resurrect Xiao Jiutian, but the Celestial River King had to consider whether to resurrect him or not. Because once Chen Hao resurrected Xiao Jiutian, he would know that Xiao Jiutian was no longer a pure Xiao Jiutian, but a life of the Celestial River King. If the world knew about this, the Celestial River King would probably be despised by everyone. How could he still have the face to sit on the throne of the great world of CND? How could he condense the strongest destiny of the great world of CND? The Celestial River King was, after all, the Celestial River King. After a brief loss of composure, he immediately adjusted and returned to the rostrum, directly signaling the competition to continue. After one round, 2 people died, leaving only 8 people. Li Yuan, Miao Xian, Qin Yang, Ning Jing, Song Long Yuan, Su Junfeng, Tang Haotian, and Zhan Yuanzhao. In the second round, the opponents were still decided by drawing lots. If the opponents were drawn again, they would draw lots again. The following rounds were the same. Although it was a little troublesome, it was undoubtedly the fairest for all the contestants. Who to fight first, who to fight next, and who to fight next were all very important for the contestants who hid their strength. Among the 8, only Miao Xian, Qin Yang, and Ning Jing were not the reincarnation of an immortal emperor. After the first round, there was no doubt that the 3 of them were no match for the spirits of all existences. If the strongest, Xiao Jiutian, couldn't beat the weakest, Wei Wufa, then how could they be a match for Canglong Yuan's group? The results of the draw quickly came out. The second round. First match, Li Yuan vs Tang Haotian. Second match, Miao Xian vs Zhan Yuanzhao. Third match, Qin Yang vs Canglong Yuan. Fourth match, Su Junfeng vs Ning Jing. In the first match, what no one had expected was that Tang Haotian, the soul of all creation, had admitted defeat without even stepping onto the arena. Clearly, Chen Hao, who had defeated Gu Xian, had made Tang Haotian timid. The following 3 matches confirmed everyone's guess. Although Miao Xian, Qin Yang, and Ning Jing did not admit defeat in advance, the 3 of them were unable to win. Even if Miao Xian was up against the weakest Zhan Yuanzhao, it was useless. When Zhan Yuanzhao summoned his godhead, he easily secured victory. Needless to say, only Qin Yang and Ning Jing were up against the powerful Canglong Yuan and Su Junfeng. Of course, with Chen Hao's reminder and Xiao Jiutian's lesson, the 2 of them only lost in a daunting experience. In the third round, Chen Hao drew Qin Yang, who admitted defeat. Miao Xian drew Canglong Yuan, who lost. Ning Jing drew Tang Haotian, who lost. Zhan Yuanzhao drew Su Junfeng, who also chose to admit defeat. This was beyond everyone's expectations. It seems like the only matches worth looking forward to are the ones between Li Yuan, Canglong Yuan, and Su Junfeng. These are the top 3. The fourth is Tang Haotian, who has already defeated Zhan Yuanzhao. The fifth is Zhan Yuanzhao. Miao Xian, Ning Jing, and Qin Yang are at the bottom. Between the 3 of them, Miao Xian's strength is better. She should be able to get 6th. Qin Yang is 7th, Ning Jing is 8th. When the lots for the 4th round were being drawn, everyone was discussing. At this point, the situation of the competition had begun to become clear. The only thing that could not be determined was the strongest 3, Li Yuan, Canglong Yuan, and Su Junfeng. Without a doubt, this was the battle that everyone was looking forward to the most. The 4th round, the first match, Su Junfeng vs Canglong Yuan. The second match, Chen Hao vs Zhan Yuanzhao. The third match, Tang Haotian vs Qin Yang. The 4th match, Miao Xian vs Ning Jing. Su Junfeng and Canglong Yuan, please stay and start the first match. Voila. This time, as soon as the host finished speaking, the entire martial arts arena, and even the immortal world exploded. It's finally the battle between the strongest. Yes, who do you think will win? It should be Canglong Yuan. He is the reincarnation of the immortal world's heavenly dragon clan's immortal emperor. Moreover, from the looks of it, even if he is not a heavenly venerable, his battle prowess should be stronger than the reincarnation of heavenly venerable Gu Xian. Therefore, I feel that Canglong Yuan has a higher chance of winning. I feel that Su Junfeng has a higher chance of winning. Until now, he has not revealed too much. Perhaps he has hidden his strength a little deeper. Canglong Yuan versus Su Junfeng, who would win? Only by fighting would they know. Even Chen Hao, whose perception ability was monstrous to a terrifying degree, could not give a definite answer. Both of them still had some hidden strength. This was something that Chen Hao could be sure of. However, some things could not be seen through to determine who was stronger. I didn't expect the 2 of us to meet first. This is also good. Li Yuan is able to suppress an heavenly venerable's godhead. To you and me, he should be our number 1 opponent. It's only logical to deal with him after we deal with you. The tall and mighty Tsang Longyuan stood with his hands behind his back, looking arrogantly at Su Junfeng opposite him as he spoke in a solemn voice. Haha, well said. Dealing with you before dealing with him is also the result I want. Su Junfeng laughed loudly in disdain. At this moment, the aura around him fluctuated violently. You're very confident. You too. Since that's the case, do you dare to bet with me? Why wouldn't I dare? No matter what you bet, I, Su Junfeng, will accept it. Su Junfeng said without hesitation. In a battle between experts, no matter what, one could not lose to the other in terms of momentum. Very good. You said it yourself. The loser will acknowledge the winner as his master and follow him forever. Do you dare? Song Longyuan looked straight at Su Junfeng as he spoke in a solemn voice. Exactly what I want. The heavenly venerable heavenly dragon mount delivered itself to my doorstep. How could I not accept it? However, words alone are not enough. Let's sign a contract. You don't have any objections, right? Su Junfeng said in an imposing manner. Naturally, I don't have any objections. Song Longyuan answered. However, I'm not talking about signing a contract with the supreme law of the great world of Xiandi. The supreme law here can't bind us. Now the gate of the immortal world has been loosened. Since we're going to sign a contract, we'll communicate with the immortal world and sign it with the supreme law of the upper three heavens of the immortal world. Do you dare? Su Junfeng's eyes shone brightly as his expression became more and more arrogant. Upper three heavens of the immortal world? What does that mean? At this moment, countless cultivators were shocked by Su Junfeng's words. Even some reincarnated immortal emperors and spirits of all living things were stunned. In their knowledge, they only knew about the immortal world. However, Su Junfeng's words clearly indicated that the immortal world also had a division of planes. This was something that some spirits of all living things did not know and had never heard of. Chapter 1463. You. Song Longyuan's expression changed slightly when he heard Su Junfeng's words. He stared at Su Junfeng for a few seconds before he said, Are you from Shangsantian? What do you think? Cut the crap, just say yes or no. Su Junfeng said with a smile. Good, very good. I didn't expect that I, Song Longyuan, would misjudge you. However, since I'm the one who suggested it, why should I be afraid? Come on. Song Longyuan's eyes flashed with a trace of viciousness as he said suddenly. As soon as he finished speaking, his glabella suddenly opened up, and he looked up at the endless void. At this point, he no longer had a way out. Very good. Su Junfeng also activated his glabella and did the same thing as Song Longyuan. Chi. Two rays of golden holy light shot up into the sky and blended together. They tore the sky apart and connected the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Buzz, 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 buzz. Golden halos like ripples penetrated the sky and spread in all directions. A moment later, dazzling celestial light came from the depths of the endless void and condensed into chains of order. They entered the glabella of Su Junfeng and Song Longyuan at the same time. Immediately, the two of them were surrounded by celestial qi and rays of light. Buzz. Immediately, their bodies shook and all the strange phenomena disappeared. The contract was completed. Done. Haha. Song Longyuan, from now on you're my Su Junfeng's battle pet. Show your true form and be obedient. Dream on. You want my heavenly dragon bloodline to be your ride? Do you think you're worthy? You're just from Shangsantian. My heavenly dragon bloodline looks down on the lower 3 heavens, roams the middle 3 heavens, and communicates with Shangsantian. If it weren't for the War of the 3 Realms, we would be an overlord in Shangsantian. You're more suitable to be my servant. Come on, let's talk with strength. I'll let you know that you're just a piece of trash in front of me. Roar. Song Longyuan looked up to the sky and roared. The power of the heavenly dragon suddenly rolled out. His body instantly revealed the true form of the heavenly dragon, which covered the sky and the sun. Song Longyuan's words gave the other reincarnated immortal emperors and the cultivators of the great world of Xiandi a piece of information. It seemed like the immortal world was divided into the lower 3 heavens, middle 3 heavens, and upper 3 heavens, which corresponded to the 9 heavens. This was something that none of the reincarnated immortal emperors present knew about. So that's how it is. That's how it is. I finally understood why there were only a few dozen celestial venerables in the vast and boundless immortal world. The immortal world I'm in is merely the lower 3 heavens, Tang Haotian said in shock. At this moment, he finally understood why Tsang Longyuan and Su Junfeng did not even care about heavenly sovereign Gu Xian. Crack. A huge dragon breath spewed out from the sky dragon's bloody mouth. It was many times stronger than when it dealt with Ning Jing. It was like a terrifying heavenly thunder, blasting towards Su Junfeng. Open! Su Junfeng, whose battle intent had risen to a terrifying level, faced such a terrifying attack. His expression did not change in the slightest. Even the hands behind his back did not move in the slightest. He only opened his lips slightly and coldly spat out the word open. Soon after, everyone saw an unbelievable scene. Everyone, including Chun Hao, widened their eyes in shock. An incomparably huge door appeared out of thin air in front of Su Junfeng. The pitch-black round door looked like a black sun at a glance. When one looked at it carefully, one's mind seemed to be swallowed by it. There were endless runes, as if they were formed by indescribably powerful ancient beasts. Roar! 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 It was also at this moment that the roar of a ferocious beast that caused one's heart to turn cold burst out from the pitch-black door. Everyone's eyes seemed to have penetrated the pitch-black exterior, and saw another world. The world of ancient ferocious beasts was filled with an endless number of ancient ferocious beasts. The aura of each of them was so terrifying that it was indescribable. Heavenly beasts. That was the world of heavenly beasts. Heavenly beasts were existences that were stronger than ordinary heavenly sovereigns. At the same time, endless ancient, mysterious, and incomparably complicated runes rolled out from the pitch-black door, condensing into pitch-black chains that directly locked onto the true form of the sky dragon that was already roaming in the void. Impossible, impossible. How can you have the heavenly beast chaos diagram? How can it be? You despicable and shameless fellow. If you have the guts, defeat me with your strength. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Terrified, mournful, and unwilling roars came from Tsang Longyuan's huge dragon head. Unfortunately, the pitch-black door and pitch-black chains completely locked onto his body and soul. At this moment, how was he still the insufferably arrogant sky dragon? It gave people the feeling that in front of this pitch-black door, Tsang Longyuan was an ant that could be easily grasped in the hand and trampled on at will. Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram. Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram. Zhan Yuanzhao, Tang Haotian, Kong Ying, and the rest of the spirits of all beings that were reincarnated immortal emperors stared blankly at Tsang Longyuan, who was bound by the pitch-black chains and shrunk until he was only a few hundred feet long. He crawled in front of Su Junfeng and muttered the words, Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram repeatedly. They did not know the division of planes in the immortal world because their realms had never reached the corresponding realm. In the immortal world with its strict hierarchy and perfect laws, they were not qualified to know. However, they had heard of the 10 great chaos treasures of the immortal world. The Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram was one of the 10 great chaos treasures that were born at the beginning of chaos. It was a natural treasure that could not be refined. The Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram was ranked last among the 10 great chaos treasures because it had a fatal flaw. It was only useful for beasts. Even the strongest heavenly beast could not resist it. However, apart from beasts, it was not very useful for humans, plants and fairies in the immortal, demon, and celestial realms. If that was not the case, it would not be ranked last among the 10 great chaos treasures. However, even so, supreme great immortal artifacts were trash in front of it. However, before the Great War of the Three Realms, the Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram, and the other 9 great chaos treasures were basically legends. But now, it actually appeared in front of Tsang Longyuan. Even though he had never seen it before, its aura and appearance were exactly the same as in the records. Especially the power that he was completely unable to resist. It made him immediately think of the legendary Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram. The nemesis of beasts. Sky dragons were undoubtedly beasts. This was an unchangeable fact. Ha ha. This is the power of a chaos treasure. It is indeed powerful. Ha ha ha, the Sky Dragon Chariot. I, Su Junfeng, will also have the Sky Dragon Chariot one day. Ha ha ha. With the Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram. This is just the beginning. Ha ha ha. Let's contract. Buzz. Su Junfeng pointed a finger, and the contract rune bloomed with dazzling light. The contract came into effect. Then he sat directly on Songlong Yuan's shrunken original form. Merge. Hiss. Soon after, Su Junfeng called out again. Songlong Yuan immediately turned into streaks of resplendent light and merged into Su Juanfeng's body. In the next moment, Su Juanfeng's entire body was covered in a scale armor that shone with resplendent light. Songlong Yuan is now my battle pet. Ha ha. He will not be part of the next competition. However, you will be able to meet him in my next battle. Ha ha ha. MC, can you announce the results now? Chapter 1464. Until Su Juanfeng's reminder, the true Immortal King stage host finally recovered from his shock and announced the result of the competition. At this point, 3 of the top 10 were gone, and only 7 were left. The second match was between Chen Hao and Zhang Yuanzhao. Although Tang Haoyan was slightly stronger than Wei Wufa, he was only slightly stronger. He could not be compared to the reincarnated heavenly venerable Gu Xian. At this moment, there was no need to doubt the cruelty of the competition. Even Tang Haoyan admitted defeat against Li Yuan. How could he still dare to fight against Chen Hao? Moreover, he had been Gu Xian's lackey before. Therefore, Zhang Yuanzhao did not hesitate and chose to admit defeat. Chen Hao was speechless, but there was nothing he could do. The third match was between Tang Haoyan and Qin Yang. The pressure of Tang Haoyan's godhead reappeared. As expected, Qin Yang lost again. There was nothing he could do. The fourth match was between Miao Xian and Ning Jing. Although this battle wasn't as exciting as the battle between Su Junfeng, Songlong Yuan, and Chen Hao, it was still a battle between the same type of people. Moreover, it was a battle of equal strength. It was much more interesting than the previous two. In fact, the two experienced a wonderful and dangerous battle. In the end, Miao Xian defeated Ning Jing with a slight advantage. However, although Miao Xian won, she did not have the slightest joy. She was very clear that if she had not merged with Chen Hao for so many years, it would be difficult for her to defeat the number 1 Daoyuo Jingxian of Jade Maiden Palace, Ning Jing. The fusion of yin and yang in her subconscious had already left the scope of her subconscious and began to affect Miao Xian. The telepathy with Chen Hao was the best proof. In fact, when Miao Xian no longer rejected the feeling of Chen Hao in her subconscious, the yin and yang dual cultivation had already begun to take effect. However, to Miao Xian, this was just the beginning. The real improvement had yet to come. Otherwise, the effect of dual cultivation with Chen Hao for so many years would be a waste of Chen Hao's abnormal talent. The fifth round, the first match was between Chen Hao and Ning Jing. Ning Jing admitted defeat. The second match was between Zhang Yuanzhao and Qin Yang. Qin Yang admitted defeat. Facing a spiritual of all things with a godhead, Qin Yang no longer had any meaning in fighting. The third match was between Miao Xian and Su Junfeng. Miao Xian also chose to admit defeat. Tang Haoyan was alone. In the sixth round, the first match was between Ning Jing and Qin Yang. Neither side could do anything to the other. The second match was between Miao Xian and Tang Haoyan. Chen Hao and Su Junfeng had both fought against Zhang Yuanzhao before, so the third match was supposed to be between Chen Hao and Su Junfeng. However, since the battle between the two of them would definitely be the pinnacle battle of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, it was customary to leave it until the last match. Therefore, there were only 2 matches in the 6th round. In the 7th round, the first match was between Zhang Yuanzhao and Ning Jing. Ning Jing admitted defeat, thus ending their matches. The second match was between Qin Yang and Miao Xian. Qin Yang admitted defeat, thus ending their matches. The third match was between Tang Haoyan and Su Junfeng. Tang Haoyan admitted defeat, thus ending his matches. The final match was between Li Yuan and Su Junfeng. Li Yuan had cultivated the 9 lives profound art of the Celestial River King, but this was not important. What was more important was that all of his lives were monstrous geniuses, especially Chen Tianhe. Secondly, Li Yuan had killed the spirit of all beings Shi Chao. Thirdly, Li Yuan had defeated the reincarnated heavenly venerable Gu Xian and suppressed his godhead. How strong was Li Yuan exactly? Su Junfeng had not revealed his strength until the competition for the top 10 spots. Who would have thought that he could come this far? He came from the immortal world's upper 3 heavens. He had the legendary chaos treasure, the heavenly beast chaos diagram. He could easily turn the terrifying heavenly dragon into a battle pet. How strong was he now? A battle pet that had recognized its master was a part of its combat strength. Song Longyuan was capable of reaching the top in the first place, but he had been defeated by the chaos pattern of the heavenly beast. Anyway, Su Junfeng was fighting side by side with Song Longyuan. Could Chen Hao stop him? In the eyes of most people, Su Junfeng winning the first place was already a foregone conclusion. It was not that Chen Hao was not strong, but Su Junfeng was too strong. However, the countless experts present did not agree with Su Junfeng's high-profile actions. So what if he was the reincarnation of an almighty from the immortal world? He was now just the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. He did not even understand the basic principle of an innocent man getting into trouble because of his wealth. That was one of the immortal world's top 10 chaos treasures. Without enough strength to protect it, how could it be exposed in front of others? Many experts were clear that the so-called rules, when there were enough benefits, were just fleeting clouds in front of a true expert. There was no restrictive effect at all. The most important point was that Su Junfeng was alone, rootless duckweed, without any backing to protect him. They believed that after this competition, the heavenly beast chaos diagram would change owners. As for who would get it, it was hard to say. It depended on who was stronger, who acted faster. In short, it could be anyone on the rostrum, because the burning gaze in his eyes could not be concealed. Li Yuan, Su Junfeng, please come to the stage. Without giving too much time to wait, the host's voice rose an octave. Although it was still a formal announcement, this time, the host's voice and eyes were faintly excited and excited. What kind of scene would the peak confrontation of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland be like? The battle that countless people were looking forward to was finally going to be staged. In the top 10 contestant seats, after hearing the referee's words, Su Junfeng slowly got up. His face was filled with a faint and confident smile. After turning his head to look at Chen Hao, he said, "Don't say that you admit defeat directly. If that's the case, I'll be very disappointed." After Su Junfeng finished speaking, he directly rose into the air and stepped onto the stage under everyone's gaze. He stared proudly in the direction of Chen Hao. "What, do you really not dare to?" Seeing that Chen Hao still had no intention of getting up, Su Junfeng said again in a tone full of disdain and contempt. "Since you can't wait, it seems that you have victory in your hands? Don't worry, I won't admit defeat. I'm just thinking about one thing." Chen Hao's lips curled up slightly as he slowly got up. Buzz. As he spoke, his body shook and directly cut through the void and appeared on the stage. "Okay. Fight, fight, fight. Fight, fight, fight. Li Yuan will win. Li Yuan will win." The silent crowd suddenly became restless with Chen Hao's appearance. Li Yuan did not admit defeat, which was undoubtedly the result that they wanted to see the most. In their opinion, Li Yuan's decision required courage. After all, he was facing the equivalent of Su Junfeng and Song Longyuan working together. Moreover, Su Junfeng had the heavenly beast chaos diagram. Even if it was ineffective against humans, how could Su Junfeng, who might have a chaos supreme treasure, be simple? It could be said that even if Li Yuan chose to admit defeat directly, no one would be surprised at all. They would only be disappointed and disappointed. Now Li Yuan was on the stage. Chapter 1465. The figure that stood proudly like a sword, the extraordinarily handsome face, and the calm and cool expression seemed to have no pressure at all. The soaring battle intent and the surging invincible aura were even stronger than when he faced Gu Xian. At this moment, Chen Hao gave people the feeling that he was still himself. No matter who he faced or how strong he was still the arrogant person who looked down on the world. Consider what? Bet. Ha ha ha. Li Yuan, I have to admit that I admire your courage. Bet that I love you too. Tell me, what do you want to bet? How do you want to bet? Su Junfeng laughed and looked at Chen Hao with a mocking gaze. The Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram. Chen Hao smiled and said calmly. The Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram? Su Junfeng was slightly surprised and then said disdainfully. You should know what my Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram is, right? It's one of the 10 legendary chaos treasures in the immortal world. You want to bet with me? Can you take out a treasure of the same level as his? What a joke. I have it. As for whether it's the same level as yours, I don't know, but I know that it's definitely not inferior to yours, Chen Hao said. Haha, are you joking? If you have it, then show it to me. You can send a strand of divine thought into my mind and you'll know that I'm telling the truth. Really? Then I really want to see it. Su Junfeng also suspected that Chen Hao was tricking him. Sending a strand of divine thought in to take a look would have negligible effect on him, even if it was annihilated. Chen Hao was also very straightforward and directly opened the space between his eyebrows. At this moment, everyone was staring at Chen Hao with a puzzled, shocked and curious expression. Could it be that he really had a treasure that was comparable to the Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram? After a while, Su Junfeng's surprised and excited expression gave everyone the answer. What kind of treasure is that? I don't know what it is exactly because I can't make it recognize me as its master. But I know that it's definitely an existence that surpasses the best immortal artifact. Because its aura is definitely not inferior to your Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram. Well, since you've seen it, do you want to bet or not? Why should I believe you? It's in your mind, so even if you've already acknowledged it as your master, I don't know. Believe it or not. You don't have to bet, it doesn't matter. Chen Hao said. The reason why Chen Hao wanted to bet with Su Junfeng on the Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram was because he had learned from the old god that although the Heavenly Beast Chaos Diagram only had power against heavenly beasts, the most important part of its name was the Chaos Diagram. It contained the original aura of the endless galaxy at the beginning of chaos. Although it was in chaos, through it, one only needed to lock onto one of the original auras to be able to sense the location of the galaxy that was related to that original aura. To an ordinary person, this was meaningless. However, to Chen Hao, it was significant. What would it mean if Chen Hao could find the familiar aura of Earth in the origin aura of the endless universe? Of course, Chen Hao also knew that it would not be easy to find Earth amidst the endless aura of the origin. However, since he knew about it, he had to give it a try. It was because of this that Chen Hao proposed the bet. The treasure that Chen Hao showed Su Junfeng was naturally the treasure guarded by the old god. It was also opened by the old god for Su Junfeng's divine thought. However, since Su Junfeng did not believe it, he could not force him. He could only give up. Don't bet? Why not? But we have to bet big. Bet big? Chen Hao frowned slightly. That's right. Since I can't be sure if you've refined it and acknowledged it as your master, let's bet our lives. In this case, it doesn't matter whether you've refined it or not. What do you say? Don't say that you don't dare. Crash. Su Junfeng's words caused an uproar among the crowd. Bet our lives. Chen Hao stared at Su Junfeng and murmured repeatedly. Immediately, he said in a low voice, a life and death duel? No, that's too wasteful. Moreover, I don't think you and I can easily kill each other. What do you say? What I mean is, just like me and Song Longyuan, communicate with the upper three heavens of the immortal dimension, and sign a contract. This way we can kill two birds with one stone. All right. When he heard Su Junfeng, Chen Hao chose to agree without the slightest hesitation. This caused the already clamorous crowd to instantly seethe with excitement, and be extremely shocked. Is he crazy? Too crazy. I can only say that the reincarnation of a great figure of the immortal dimension is too confident in himself. In my opinion, it's already inconceivable that Li Yuan dared to enter the arena to fight. Daring to take the initiative to propose a bet is even more exaggerated. Yet now he's actually betting his life. This isn't as simple as confidence. In fact, it's also a battle of momentum. Since it's already come to this, no one will choose to back down. Yeah, I think Li Yuan is probably doomed. To be honest, besides utilizing the Heavenly Beast Chaos diagram, Su Junfeng hasn't exposed his true combat strength at all. More importantly, the powerful Tsang Longyuan is already his Heavenly Dragon battle pet. How can Li Yuan defeat him? Yeah, alas, I hope that Li Yuan will win. Although he's also the wisest of all living things, at least he's already joined our academy in the Great Thousand World. He's also considered one of us. Moreover, he has so many brothers, sisters, and cultivation companions. This Su Junfeng, I think he doesn't put anyone in his eyes at all. I feel the same way. Same, I support Li Yuan. I also hope that Li Yuan will win. He's been creating miracles all along the way from the University of Dahua. This time, I hope that he can continue to create miracles. In the buzzing discussion, almost all of the people were leaning towards supporting Chen Hao, even if there were reasons given by the crowd. This phenomenon was more or less unbelievable. It could only be said that Chen Hao, who had returned to his original appearance, had a strong aura that could conquer people's hearts. It was so strong that it didn't matter whether it was a man or a woman, old or young. Because of this, most of the people were worried for Chen Hao. Even the women, brothers and sisters, as well as King Ying, King Sword, and King Luoying, who knew that Chen Hao was abnormal, were a little worried. Although Chen Hao was strong, Su Junfeng was also unfathomable. Even they couldn't measure him. Not to mention that he had turned Song Longyuan into his Heavenly Dragon battle pet. But although they were worried, they couldn't stop it, and they couldn't stop it. Chen Hao and Su Junfeng attacked at the same time. Just like Su Junfeng and Song Longyuan, they directly connected the 9 heavens and 10 earths, communicated with the celestial realm's celestial qi, and signed a supreme contract. Looking at the rolling celestial qi and Tao principles, Su Junfeng looked directly at Chen Hao and said confidently, "You're really from Shang Santian. Unfortunately, no matter who you are, you've met me, and your ending is already destined. However, it's also your luck to be able to follow me. Soon, you'll find that this may be the wisest decision in your life. Ha ha ha." That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.